because what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how I'm setting up for today's assignment. And I'm going to start the paintings with acrylic paint, which dries really fast so that I can move into the secondary stage of the paintings. But I want it to dry a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to start over there. I'm going to lay in 3 to 4 value paintings based on the handouts, and we'll talk about that. And then I'm going to switch back over, come back to you guys over here, and we are going to look at your guys's truly outstanding work that you guys were sharing on our Facebook page. It will be a quick, I don't know if critique is the right way, but feedback, show and tell, a quick sharing. It's going to be very fast, just a couple minutes on each one. If you would prefer I don't talk about any of your paintings, just let me know. I can just type in after class. In fact, the first 3 or 4 students that submitted their work, I did type in. And then last night as I was going to bed, I mistakenly checked in on the website or on our group page and found like 5 more of you guys posted, and I didn't write or do anything. I just figured we'll talk about them in class. Okay, everybody okay with that? Oh, and then after that, we'll take a quick little break. And then we will go back to our dry-ish acrylic paintings. And I'm going to talk about glazing. This is a really fun exercise. So last week we did kind of direct painting. This week we will be able to go back and do some glazing because hopefully some of your paintings are starting to get dry. And this is another technique that tonalists use. And it's another technique that's kind of gone out of favor over the last number of years, where alla prima, meaning all at once, painting has become so in vogue that the glazing techniques have kind of gone away, at least as far as teaching is concerned. So I want to show you guys some glazing on those. And then I'm going to go ahead and show you how I would use glazing on last week's paintings. Okay, so what will happen is that will allow you guys another week to refine your paintings that we worked on, or to do some of these exercises. That's where we will be, hopefully, at the end of class. Sounds like a lot. We'll see if we can do it. I am also, see if we can see it back there. Oh, it's hiding. I'll hold it up when I get over to the other easel. There's a great big painting that I worked on. I'm going to change the view over to spotlight for everybody. So hopefully I kind of took over the screen there. I don't know how everybody sees it. I'm going to do a share screen, and then very quickly, it's just a 20-second little video here. My printer's starting up for some reason. All right, everybody see the Painting Beautiful Tonalist Landscapes group? I'm going to switch over very quickly to this video. And this is a very, very quick example of the subtractive painting style. Let's take it back to here. What I did, and unfortunately it didn't record, I pushed the wrong button. But basically what I did was cover this 30-inch by 40-inch canvas with red, like an earth red and Payne's gray paint. I knew that the center part of my surface was going to be dark. It's kind of a reflection in a pond. Like, maybe I shouldn't tell you that, let it be a surprise. But this is going to show you the first half, maybe first third of this painting, but very quickly, how I use the subtractive style, kind of like I did at the end of the last class where I did those trees. So let's just quickly watch this. Hopefully I don't make you guys seasick. It's very much, I think it's a couple hours of painting condensed into 20 seconds. The paint is pretty thick on the canvas, and there's actually another painting underneath. So as I'm wiping away, some of that other painting starts to reveal itself. But it was a painting that I was getting so frustrated with that I just decided to cover it with this big mass of paint. So here we go. Now I'm beginning to paint into it. Let's just pause it at the end there. So you can see that all of the middle, are you guys seeing my mouse moving across the screen?
Yes.
Fantastic. So for one part of it where I'm, let's see if I can get to it. Right before that. I'm using a, there you go, you can see it. That is a rubber tool used for printmaking, and it basically almost works like an eraser. I can show you when we get up to the easel. I use that, it's got different kinds of corners. One corner underneath my hand is rounded, two sharper corners over here, kind of works as a blade. And I'm just kind of bringing in some ripples. There's actually going to be some ducks that are going to appear at the ends of these ripples when the painting's done. There's no detail painted in yet. This is all just me massing, giving my big shapes. Then I came back in with my brush and started adding some highlights, just some dots on top of those ripples. The light is all reflecting in the front of this and then some in the back. Taking the brush, bringing it across. You can see also that I use thicker paint to describe these trees. You can see here before that's where I just started to add some paint. You can see they're just barely in there by wiping away, kind of brushing out, wiping away again. The light is kind of going to be blasting from above, almost right in the middle of the scene is where I'm going to have the light kind of coming through, hitting. These are all going to be grasses, shrubbery, spindly little trees. There'll be a lot of detail hinted at when this painting is done. I haven't gotten to that point. Again, let's get back towards the end. That's where I'm at. So I am just trusting that this detail, but you can kind of see, right? The grasses, it's beginning. I'm giving myself the big shapes, my big layout, my big structure, my big value shifts, kind of the light where the sun's going to be kind of obliterating a lot of shapes up here. The lighter, as the sun's kind of, well, the fog is backlit. So it begins to swallow and destroy sharp shapes, the fog does, and then with the light shining through that. So anyways, I thought that was kind of very interesting. So one more quick time.
Michael,
go ahead.
At that point you were showing us with the light there, is it, are the lights we're looking at, are those the canvas showing through, or did you apply white paint or light colored paint?
On the trees?
All over, like on the shrubbery and on the water highlights, those are all just scraped off?
Yeah, so the painting that was underneath was kind of a big, it was almost all sky. So it was fairly light in color. So that's me wiping away the paint. So if I go here, oops, I'm trying to see there, you can see it's quite dark. This is before I've really started removing paint. And then as I start to remove the paint, it's getting lighter, but I know that it's never going to get to white. There is no white of the canvas left because of the underpainting.
So in this video, there has been no white applied to the new painting.
Except for when I get to the end. Now I've added much lighter light paint up there, and I'm beginning to add the ripples, and then you'll see these streaks of kind of the ripples where the sun is hitting it in the background, so you can see me adding.
Oh yeah, okay.
It's kind of an interesting way to do it, being able to pause it like this. And that's kind of where it ends up. And that's kind of enough. Like, I'm like, okay, that took me an hour, maybe 2 hours to make this great big, I mean, again, it's 30 inches by 40 inches. It's not small. And I feel like I'm in a good place. I was able to move things a lot. Like in the very beginning, I had wiped out this shape here and put that right in the middle, but I realized that the light's going to be coming kind of down the middle. So I need to kind of weight my left side because there is going to be quite a bit of interest over here. All these shrubs and bushes over here are going to be top lit. I'm going to add more color into these than in the other areas, these grasses, and then it'll get foggier and foggier as it goes back. And again, I will have a couple ducks kind of making these little trails here as they swim across, you know, just enough ripples that the light is catching on the ripples. yeah, so anyways, that kind of goes back to how I might use the subtractive style. And I'll try to capture the next stages in the painting, even if it is kind of in this fast forward, so that I can show you as I build it up. It'll probably be a week before a lot, because this paint is pretty thick in a lot of areas, till it's dry enough that I can come in and add, you know, sharper, crisper details, grasses and whatnot in there. But I could paint wet into wet. I bet you it's starting to tack up already. I did this yesterday. That's how I relax after a week of painting. Just come and have fun and play and cover a painting that has been causing me anguish. It's kind of fun when you're away. All right, I think my wife must be printing stuff from downstairs. Sorry about that noise.
Michael,
Anyways, let's get back. Go ahead.
so on the background, did you, is that a mix of the Payne's gray and the earth red, or did you do earth red on part of it and Payne's gray on other parts of it?
It is mixed, but it definitely leans. I can go back to that video here. It definitely leans towards the Payne's gray and the darks. And I may have even put in, it was me using a lot of my leftover paint that I brought back from the coast from doing 2 demos and a dueling easel. I had a lot of paint. So that's why I was just like, I'm just going to cover this painting. And then let me grab the reference really quickly. Obstacle course in here with all the cords hanging around. So that's the reference. It's a nature park really close to my house. And my wife and I love to walk in there in the different seasons. It's literally like a mile away from my house. But I really liked, I shot the photo through my sunglasses.
Did you make it big? Because you're just a little square right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, let's go back. I forgot I'm doing screen share. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Let me take it out of the sleeve. So I often put them in these plastic sleeves just because when I'm splattering paint, keeps them a little better. But there you go. It's a very, it's almost a throwaway photo because of the blasting of the light and a lot of information's kind of been lost. But right, I just kind of went, you know what, that would be a fun and interesting challenge. You can see the ducks. And doesn't that look like kind of a strange, almost difficult, but it's mostly hinted at detail. And it's very, very tonalist, maybe overly tonalist. I'll probably be changing some of these to more green, or like there's this bush back here that's just capturing a tiny bit of light. I thought, man, that might look cool, with a slightly different color to contrast with all the earth reds and browns. But anyways, that's the reference.
So Michael, I have a question.
Sure, please.
Okay, so your first failed painting or whatever you want to call it that was underneath that you covered up with the earth red and the Payne's gray mix. Was that painting dry and you just put paint on it, or did you?
Yeah, it was totally dry. So for the show I did out at Cannon Beach this last weekend, I knew that they wanted bigger paintings, so I started 30 by 60, a 36 by 48, and I'm going to go back to screen share because I can actually show you those two.
So did you have to oil out your canvas for it to accept the paint, or just
no? Because I hadn't used much. Okay, can you guys see that painting there?
Oh, my word.
So that's the 30-inch by 60-inch painting. And yeah, this is the finished version. It's really interesting under different light. So this one was started with an acrylic painting. So these rocks and the darks in the foreground were painted with black acrylic paint. And then I can show you that video really quick. Trying to be better about I think I can.
I think you passed it.
Yeah, you passed it.
Did I?
One more. Keep
Yeah,
going.
one more up.
There you go.
Well, this is a different one. This is the 36 by 48.
Oh, there was another
Okay.
one above too.
Oh, okay, great. This is the 36 by 48 that I did. Very much more dramatic. So in my goal, when I did the four, so I did two 30 by 40s, a 36 by 48 and a 30 by 60. And I actually started two more 30 by 40s. Two of them were just not working out. And that was all in 2 weeks' time before the show. So it was too much. Two of them just weren't working. And I found that I was spending time trying to fix. Remember, I like painting. I don't like fixing. And it was because I just didn't have good design. I was rushing. I wasn't spending enough time in the beginning stages of the painting because I wanted to get them done, right? And that always bites me in the butt every time. I've never gotten away with that, even though I've been professional for what, 17 years now, 16 years now. I have to learn that lesson every couple of weeks. So that's why I emphasize over and over, design, design, design. This one, yeah, this was a fun one. In the highlights in the yellow and on the moon, I actually went back and added white towards the end and then let that dry and then glazed in the bright yellow. And on the moon, just a tiny bit of red and blue. So it wasn't so shiny white. It looked like it was stuck on like a sticker. So anyways, and kind of added the glazing in down into the water with the reds and the yellows to make them reflecting, hopefully, the sky.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you. That was a lot of fun. And so the first one that I showed you, the horizontal one, was a tonalist painting. I would say that one's more like a luminist painting. A third and fourth one, which I haven't shared yet on here, so I don't have them up on my computer. I'll share them next week.
Nah.
One was much more impressionistic, very thick brush work, using different kinds of brushes. And you guys said you saw the video. Let's see. Not that video, not that, not that. Oh, here we can see some of them in progress. This is my super colorful, amazingly strange, beautiful gallery out in Cannon Beach. It is crazy. Every wall's different colors. It shouldn't work, in my opinion. You know, gallery should have gray, boring walls and everything else. But man, does this gallery do well. And they sell a bunch. So and I thought this was a pretty cool thing with all my paintings across the arch. I call this Hobbiton, if you ever watched the Hobbit, Lord of the Rings movies. And then back there is the wall that also has a bunch of my work. And then they also had a couple other paintings around the corner. So I guess I got them enough work. Let's see. Here's me working on the impressionistic one. When I got done, I thought the colors were too bright. So I actually went in and wiped earth red across the entire thing. Looks like I'm wearing a gas mask here. And then what I'm going to be doing today to show you guys, I go back in and you can see all of the paint that I've picked up on the end of the brush there, or end of the paper towel. And so I'm just kind of smoothing it out. I went back in and added grays into there. There's me working on that painting.
So on that previous one that you said was too bright and you added in earth red, but
Yeah.
that was on wet paint, right?
No, it has to be dry because
Okay, so it had already dried and
Yeah,
and then you toned it down.
yes,
Got it.
exactly right. Yeah, you cannot glaze a wet painting. You will just move all the paint around. You'll just smear it. And that's the scariest part because it felt really dry, but I wasn't positive because it was not nearly enough time for it to theoretically be really dry. But because I had used Galkid gel in it, that speeds up my drawing time. And because I used fast matte white mixed in. So white gets mixed into all the colors and white's the slowest of the drying of the colors. By doing that, how do I get out of here? By doing that, hopefully it goes somewhere. Don't know how to get rid of this. Let's just go back to my glow cards up here. Maybe I don't have that video on here. Anyways, not too important. It was just showing how I laid in my colors. Also, this is my business page on Facebook. So if any of you are interested, I do post other videos on there and all my pictures and a lot more. I try to post on there just about daily, different things that are in progress or in work or things I just sent out to the gallery. So it is simply Michael Orwick Arts. I did just post a link to our Tonalist page there. So it should be, yep, there it is. So it's like, if you have not yet joined me on my art page, here's the link. So for any of you who have it and want one more page on Facebook that you can go look at, there you go. Before I get too distracted, let's flip over to the other camera. I hope. Oh, I can't because I'm doing screen share. Gosh. Am I showing up large or small on there?
Large.
Medium-ish.
How about now?
Large.
Okay, good. And again, up in your right-hand corner is a little view button. If you click there, you should be able to change the views. There you go. So what this is, what you're looking at is paper that I have taped to a board. And I'm going to go over there so I can show you what I'm talking about. This is a little trick I learned when I started traveling a lot. And basically this is an oil paper pad. Okay, so it's a whole bunch, just like watercolor pads. And what I did was I took bookbinding glue. Actually, I put a little blue tape here, right on the side. And then I took bookbinding glue and a little piece of blue tape here, just this way, bookbinding glue. And I made it so that it was like a brick. So that when I traveled, I actually was I took a bunch of these books and each one of them has like, I don't know, 12 pages or something. Yeah, 12 pages. And then because I had, I would remove the tape after the glue had dried, then I could paint on this. It would fit right onto my palette. And when the painting was done, I could simply take my palette knife, put it into the spot that I had not put the glue, which I'm not seeing right now. There we go. And simply run my palette knife along the edges, removing the glue of that page, and pull out that page, let it sit and dry, and I had another neat, clean page to paint on. So that made, you know, transporting a whole bunch of working surfaces really easy. This paper is quite thirsty, meaning it will suck up your oil paints really quickly. So if I wanted to do like a subtractive style of painting, it'd be very hard because that paint just sucks in really quick. So what I would do if I wanted to do more of a subtractive style is I could actually gesso that page if I wanted to. It does take gesso pretty well. And that's kind of what I'm going to do here. So I taped this page. You can see that it's on one of my normal boards. And I just taped it on. It's kind of nice. It makes a nice little board. Gives me something to hold on to with the wet painting. And then I went ahead and divided this in fourths. If you guys want, for those of you who you know, feel like, boy, it's hard to just experiment on expensive canvases or panels, the paper is a great, much more cost-effective way to play and experiment. And you can see here, and this is something I would do when I was traveling too. I just wanted to do little sketches. You know, let's say I was going to go set up. I could do 4 sketches really quickly of the same scene, or I could simply just turn my easel. You know, sometimes like when you're in Spain or Italy, every direction you look is a possible painting. Or if I wanted to catch the sunrise and then right after the sunrise, the noon, and then that evening, I could do that as well. Just kind of leave my setup and, you know, wherever we were. What I'm going to do is really quickly, I've grabbed 3 different tubes of acrylic paint, black and white being the primary ones. I do happen to have what's called a neutral gray. I'm going to go ahead and cover these really quickly with the neutral gray. And then I'm going to keep talking while that dries and then move forward. So just squeezing that out onto a little plastic plate here. I bought a stack of these for when I'm doing acrylics. They're great. They hold the water kind of in there if I'm, spraying them to keep them wet. And also use a little mister to kind of wet the canvas so the paint slides a little faster. I'm just going to grab a cheap shop brush and I'm very quickly just going to cover this up. What it will do is just kind of create a nice neutral background. And again, the paper's thirsty, so it's going to dry. This first layer will dry very quickly. It'll suck it up really fast. So we got one possible little baby masterpiece. Got to be optimistic, right? Got to be excited about the painting. Excited about the possibilities. If you approach your painting scared each time, it's a lot tougher. Don't be apprehensive. Just get in there. Have fun. In this class, there's no wrong marks because every mark is going to teach us something. So have fun. Get in there. And attack. You can see my tape up over here a little bit, so I'm going to lose my nice clean edge, which is always fun when you pull the tape off at the end to have those clean, crisp, beautiful edges. And I just saw that this one, the paint went underneath it. I didn't push the tape down hard enough. And that's just painter's tape. That blue painter's tape generally works pretty good.
So that oil painting paper, it is not gessoed?
It's kind of made with like gesso in it, as far as I'm understanding. There are ones that are gessoed. This is there's different types. And it's made out of pure cotton. It doesn't tell you why you can paint on it with oils. I think it's somehow like put into the paper making process.
That is amazingly the one art supply I have not yet ever purchased.
Sorry, now you're gonna have them all.
Because I've bought just canvas that's primed already, just sheets of it. And you could do the same thing, couldn't you, with that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, totally. You could even just grab some really smooth cardboard or even, just a thicker paper. If you gesso, you can gesso almost anything and turn it into a painting surface. I'm talking about like, anything that's fairly acid free. And if you're just doing quick sketches and you don't care if it lasts, more than a year, you can paint on anything with gesso. This paper should be archival. It should last just in case I, accidentally make something that I really do care about and want to keep. I'm just kind of smoothing it out a little bit so it's not too textural. It's starting to warp the paper a little bit. That happens. It's starting to bubble up a little bit as it dries. That will go back a little bit. And then at the end, what I can do is make a big X with paint on the back side, and that will take that warp back away. All right, so now we're going to let that dry for a couple minutes. I'm going to quickly spray down this gray paint that I have here because it will dry fast. My studio is pretty warm with all these lights on in here. And I'm going to change our angle. So while that's drying, I'm going to show you 2 quick tips about cleaning your studio. Okay, so I'm just going to move this. All right, so in doing that great big painting yesterday, this is my paint can right here where I clean that's filled with the Gamsol. It has a screen inside of it that catches the brush, and then the sediment goes down below that. And you can see, because I was painting with those great big brushes yesterday, my paint thinner is mud. It is gross. And because I'm going to be doing glazing later, I want some nice clean colors. So I've got to figure out, what do I do with this mud, right? I'm going to grab I'll just use a bad brush. And I'm going to go ahead and stir up that sediment at the bottom a little bit more, just because it's all sitting down there thick and pretty gross. So what I have is a multi-can paint thinner cleaning system. Okay, you'll see my family loves pickles. We eat lots and lots. And unfortunately, because we buy them at Costco, we don't have those gigantic pickle jars anymore. I like those better. But we have lots and lots of these. I actually use these for a lot of different things in the studio. Use what you got. So this is an old paint thinner one. So this is one that I already poured the stuff in there. And if you let it sit off to the side for a week or two, and I actually have 3 or 4 jars in my storage thing, the sediment sinks to the bottom. And when I pour this off, if I pour it slowly, only the top will pour off. And basically I just get to keep reusing this paint thinner over and over and over. People always ask, how do I dispose of my paint thinner? And the truth is I never do. I never, ever pour out paint thinner like into the garbage or worse, into the toilet or sink. You definitely do not want to put this into your septic system if you care about, the environment. There are ways to get rid of it if you have to, with your disposal systems. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this jar up. I keep a funnel in here because I just want to make as big of a pouring surface as possible. I'm also going to grab a number of paper towels to put underneath it because I never get a good clean pour. How many of you guys use kind of a similar system?
I do.
Great. So there I get my mud, and I'm just going to pour that out nice and slowly. It's got to funnel through. You can see it filling up that jar. Hopefully 1 jar is enough. Again, I'm used to the great big pickle jars. There's just enough left at the bottom that I'm going to give that a swish. Oh man, it's almost full. Grab a second jar. I'm just swishing it around so it really grabs that sediment. Perfect. All right. That was planned. So now we've got some weird looking chocolate milk there that I definitely would suggest nobody drinks. I'm just going to cap that off, and that will sit, and believe it or not, that mud in a week will look like this or even cleaner. This one is only from before I went to the coast last week. So it would actually get all the way back to crystal clear if I was a little more patient. I just want it clean, but it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to put my screen back in there. I've been using this same can for probably going on 10 years. And I'm just slowly pouring off the top of that.
Do you throw the mud out when it builds up?
Yeah, eventually it fills up the whole jar.
And you just let it dry a little bit and put it in the garbage?
I try to dispose of it like at our local refuse, like we have where you can take your car oil and different things like that. I have also, I just open it up, let it completely dry and throw it away. It doesn't take long. You just leave it, sitting in your garage with the lid open, and the little bit that's left in there will evaporate out pretty quickly. There are people that will tint their canvases. They'll mix this with a little bit of medium and will tint their canvases with these grays. I personally am a little bit scared of that. But Gamblin does actually recycle it, and every year they come out with a paint called Torrance Gray, which is their cleaning of all their supplies, mostly their air ducts and stuff, all the little bit of filter. And it's kind of cool. Every year I get a free tube of their Torrance Gray, and it's different every year. It's kind of fun. You have these slightly different grays. Sometimes they're blue or sometimes they're red. It just depends on what colors they were making more of that year. So there's that. I'm going to go ahead and set this aside so I can show you the next thing. So hopefully that was useful. Yeah, there's 5 jars going on in there right now. Get rid of the funnel. If you really, really don't like the smell of the paint thinner at all, like you want it to smell a little more pleasant, lavender spike oil, I will take that. It's pretty expensive. I think it's like $30 or $40 for this little thing. And some people use this to clean their brushes, but it's prohibitively expensive. It's a very strong cleaner, but I will fill just the cap, pour that in there. And now my studio smells like lavender and my brushes will smell like lavender. It's really, really quite strong. Whew. My fingers very much smell of the lavender, but I prefer that smell to the kind of chemical-y smell of paint thinners and oil paints. So I just use a touch of that. You want to be careful, not too much. It is strong. Part two of today's little quick, as we're again letting these kind of dry here, is, let me see if I can find, anyways, my brushes when I got back from a week of painting or 4 days of painting were pretty destroyed. They were really thick with paint just because I wasn't cleaning them up properly at the end of the day. My favorite cleaning material for brushes when they're in really bad shape is very much the same. Dip it in my paint thinner, squeeze out any paint, dip it in my paint thinner, squeeze out any paint. And then I use Murphy's oil soap. Sounds crazy, but it's so far my favorite thing. It's made for wood floors. It's a wood cleaner. And that means is that it has oil in it, like that really makes the brushes pretty nice and pliant. So I would just put a little bit of that into one of these. Just, you barely need very much. This will last me a long time. And I don't clean my brushes with this very often. 90% of the time, just the paint thinner is enough. Because they're natural bristles, I prefer to keep them away from water. They definitely changes them a little bit slowly over time. But when they're in really bad shape, or let's say sometimes they slide off the edge of back here and I find them and they're just pretty crusty, I put a little bit of that Murphy's, let them soak for 5 minutes up to overnight. And it is amazing, even when you think your brush is about as clean as possible, how much color comes out of them. After that, you want to use probably just a touch of dish soap because this oil can be kind of strong. It's up to you. I actually like, it's almost like they're shiny, like a nice cat's coat. You can kind of see that shine on there a little bit. That's from leaving the oil on. I just want to make sure that, again, that I dip them into the paint thinner because I don't want that oil on my paints. That's floor oil. If they are a little bit splayed out, let's see if I could find an example, but you guys all know what a brush looks like when it gets exploded, kind of. Yeah, here's a good example. You see how it's doesn't have a nice pristine shape to it. It's kind of exploded. This camera is working great. What I will do is take a piece of cardboard. It's just flimsy, thick paper, fold it in half. I will often take a little bit of a paper towel on the inside of that. I lay it down right as close to the crease as I can, fold it over so that the bristles are right up against it, not smashed against it, but right against it. And then I will put a weight on top of that for a day or two. It's going to need more weight than this. I have a bunch of jars with brushes in them. I'll just kind of place them under that. Another one I've done is where I just wrap the cardboard. You can see it's cardboard wrapped up with tape, and I just slide them in there. And the same thing, I just put a weight on top and I get back these nice shapes. This one is a really good example of getting the shape back. This is a really long, 2-inch long bristles. And this thing gets crazy. It gets a weird twist to it. It takes on all these weird shapes. And I know that it'll get back to those weird shapes again. But I like to at least start off with a nice shape to it. And so
those brushes are wet when you put them in those little cardboards?
I will generally try to dry them as well as possible, especially I don't probably want water on them, but they're going to be damp.
So they're damp with water.
Damp with water, or I could go ahead and dip them into my paint thinner real quick one more time if I wanted to, if I was worried about the oil. And then here's my third thing. If I'm really in bad shape and I'm really having a hard time getting them back, into a nice sharp shape is I will take a tiny bit of Vaseline, a very, very little bit, and just put it on the ends of my brush, work it in a little bit, massage it. Then I'll give that a quick little wipe just to get the excess off, but it's still gonna have Vaseline on it. And then I'll do that same trick of putting it in the cardboard, doing that. You can see that this one's stained with a little bit of oil and stuff. That probably means there's been Vaseline in there. And it is amazing what the Vaseline does to reshape your brush, but you do not want Vaseline in your paint or on your painting. I promise you that. You'll have this weird spot that will never dry and will not take paint. So then I definitely, after I've reshaped it, I will dip it into my paint thinner, and the paint thinner really does a great job of removing the Vaseline very quickly. Give it a quick squeeze off, and I'm off. So that sounds like a lot, but some of these brushes are $25 and $30 brushes, right? And so being able to save them, and I have a lot of brushes, lots, and that's again only 1/3 or 1/4 of my brushes. These are just the ones that are working for me right now, and they're all in reasonably decent shape. But I like to use them for different things. So I think I showed you guys before that I will cut them up and make really strange shapes out of them, which we're going to be using some of these today. So anyways, I like my brushes to be used and used and used. And then, you know, I have kids over to paint with and different things like that. So, you know, then I can pull out my old brushes for them. And I have also donated big boxes of brushes to, you know, the different local art schools for kids and stuff. Kids don't seem to care.
Michael, do you use when you do use that Murphy's oil soap, do you add water to it?
Not in the beginning, but it does gum up pretty quickly if I like leave it out. So I will add water to it, but it doesn't really like water. It does kind of do some weird stuff, but it keeps it active. I can use it, but no, I don't. And I oftentimes can just use the littlest amount. Like I can put a couple drops onto the brush and just massage that in. And it's, again, it's so crazy. Like, again, a brush that I just think is about as clean as I can get it. So much color just comes pouring out of it. So whatever's in this Murphy's oil soap is pretty impressive.
And then
Kind of scary,
What's that?
a little scary.
Weird, right? Yeah, I had heard about it for a couple of years that artists were using Murphy's oil soap and always thought that sounds too weird. I was always using Dawn dish soap is my second choice. I don't use money on like the pink soap and the different soaps that they sell you in the art stores, because sometimes they're just little tiny tubes and they're really expensive, or little tiny tubs. So this seems to work well. And again, I prefer to just do the paint thinner thing, squeeze out the paint, and not let my brushes touch water very often. I'm going to step through the camera real quick because something popped up on it.
After you finished with your brush has been in Murphy's oil soap, and then you maybe give it a little swish through some dish soap. You rinse it with water, right?
Yes, you would have to. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you definitely want to get all the soap off. Yeah, some of these brushes, I thought I was done cleaning them, and then I went to give them a final squeeze and some bubbles came out. So I'd go back over and give them another little rinse. Again, it feels like a lot. It feels like a lot of steps, but it does save the brushes. They just keep coming back for more abuse and or love, I should say.
The brushes keep coming back to your salon. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I keep thinking, oh, this one's gone, and they just keep coming back. It also works for acrylic paints. My daughter had a really bad tendency of leaving her brushes, just like all kids, leaving the brushes out to sit too long and get crusty. You know, the acrylics dry really fast. So anyways, those are our little studio tricks for today.
Excellent.
Okay, so in yesterday's email that I sent out, and hopefully everybody got, I talked about the 4 different values in landscapes. And for those of you who have been in my classes will have seen some of this before. In fact, the first time I painted with Gail, I showed you this at OSA. Let's change this angle a little bit here. Okay, so if we think of landscape painting, like we did last week, we just did 3 values. But if you think of generic, simple landscape painting in 4 values, it really encapsulates most of the information. Please note, of course, that it doesn't always, landscapes aren't always like this. You're gonna have different colored subjects, if the grass was really dark, or if the plants were, covered in white flowers, these values are going to change. But as a general rule, when we're doing landscape painting, 4 values, or like we did last week, 3 values is enough to get us started, to get our design laid in and everything else. So you can see these are exactly what I'm going to be doing today. With the white, the sky is the lightest, and the reflected water would be your lightest. So that'd be 1 and 1. 2 is the things that are getting the most light. So if the grasses or any flat areas and the sun is above or whatever, it's receiving the most light, the most direct light. So that is our second value, right? And then our third value is our 45-degree angles, or things off in the distance. So hills generally is what I think of for value number 3, right? 1, 2, 3, even though this sky is not pure white like this one is, still lighter than the land. A separation of sky and land is one of the biggest mistakes, or a lack of a separation between land and sky is one of the biggest mistakes I see most painters making. And I actually even think I kind of made that mistake a little bit in last week's demo. So I'll come back in and probably lighten my sky a little bit. And then my number 4 are my upright planes, right? So they are perpendicular to my light source. So they're receiving the least amount of light. That would be like my upright grasses, my bushes, my trees, whatever that is. And you can see by simply doing a 4 value or a 3 value system, how you can imply, albeit a quite simple, but a landscape very quickly, right? So if you're just doing sketches for thumbnails, planning, you could just do it with pencil or pen. The tools I use when I go out in the field and do my sketches is I actually just have, I can grab them really quickly. Because I'm an artist and I'm addicted to art supplies, of course I have way too many. But when I go out in the field, I would just grab 3 different values, these pens, and I can very quickly do my sketches with that. I also like to take out a white ink pen that I can go over the top of this with if I ever want to. If you give me 1/2 a heartbeat.
What brand are those?
Those are Tupelo, I think.
What, oil paint or acrylic?
No, those are just paint, or those are just brushes. I mean, paint, sorry, pens. So I just pull them off and they're just pens. Does that make sense? So one side has a pointy tip, the other side has more of a calligraphy tip. Great for covering.
And that's water-based ink in those pens, or?
This brand that I've got here, which is not even, doesn't even have a brand on it. I bought them in Asia, and it doesn't even have
Right.
a name. I mean, it's in English, or I guess it's Touch 10, TOUCH 10, but there's tons of them, tons. My daughter has.
But I'm just wondering, so you're going to use that over acrylic or under acrylic? Or?
No, this would be, I'll show you. This would be in my sketchbook that I would take
Right.
before I do my painting. This is my one I took to Italy. So in my paint kit or on the side, I will often have, this is for plein air painting or traveling with, I will oftentimes have a little sketchbook. I like this landscape sized ones, and a little pen kit. And in that pen kit, I've got some pencils. And then I've got various different types of pens, but they're all black and white. And then what I will do is, this is gonna be hard to see because these are super tiny. Oh, it shows up great. Man, this camera looks really good. These are just little tiny thumbnails with those value pens. And they can be a lot messier. These are kind of refined. I actually did these while sitting on an airplane. I was just kind of thinking up some different ideas and things. This is like Savi Island. This is Rockaway Beach, back to Savi Island again. And if you get up close, you can see where I came back over with the white pen to give little bits of detail. Can you guys see that? Am I holding it steady enough? We'll give a bigger drawing to give you a better idea. And then here's just a quick little watercolor sketch of the roofs in Italy. This was a little sketch I did, just kind of seeing if this was a good idea for a painting. This tree was so centralized that I ended up just never doing this painting. This is a little farmhouse that I was staying in right here. I never did that painting. This is a little tiny one, just with a number 2 pencil, and then a white pencil on top. That's the view from the farmhouse looking down, just the valley. And then I get some that are really pretty detailed. This is the view of the main house in Italy and the path from our farmhouse to that house. And there I don't use any white pen. It's Casa Verde, Tuscany. Put a little note there. And that's only 2 pens and letting the white be the white. Here is one where I get a little more advanced. I'm going to bring it up close, and you can see this little tree right there that's catching the light. So this one was all this really interesting star pattern that I saw between the lights and the darks, and I thought was really interesting. I never did paint it, but it was a lot of fun. You can see how detailed I can get. I actually wrote with the white pen, Tuscany, Italy, Casa Nueve. This one I've painted a couple times. And this is a path, again, leading up to the main house up here, I was sitting out with a friend on this beautiful dirt road. These are all olive trees. I mean, you just can't ask for a happier, better day of painting than sitting in the olive groves in Tuscany, right? I did both of these sketches. Each probably took me about 15 minutes. Again, you can see the little white spots where I came in to give some detail. Will you guys give me 1 minute and I can actually go grab the plein air painting that I did? It's one of the few paintings I've kept. You guys give me 1 minute to run downstairs. I'll show you what happens. See, this is what I'm talking about getting distracted, but fun.
Has anybody ever tried cleaning your brushes the way he was just doing it? Can't hear.
You mean on sketchbooks?
No, with the
Oh,
paper
cleaning brushes. I didn't hear
cleaning
you.
brushes, yeah. I've never.
Yeah.
I've been, yeah, I used Murphy's oil for years.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody.
me too.
And
I always-
Okay.
I buy it by the half
Simple
gallon.
green on acrylic.
Okay.
Yeah, it works really well if you've got a stiff brush.
So again, the sketches, I kind of felt like by the time I was done with these sketches, one of the painters I was with was already well into their painting. And I was like, oh man, I'm wasting so much time. I should just be painting. But I then went and did this painting. And because of having so much of the idea in there, this painting, can't really see the color in there, in the sky, really nice, kind of a pink. This painting took me 15 minutes, maybe 20. Because I had thought about it so much, I tried to decide, am I doing it horizontally or vertically? The shadows were changing quickly, but I had captured the shadows that I really liked in this and was able to, in plein air, quickly do this little painting. I was experimenting with water soluble paints and different mediums, but I really, really just liked the immediacy of this painting. And I also have these fun little sketches.
So Michael, if you have a still photo of that painting, could you post it on the Facebook page? Because the colors are really washed out on the camera.
Yeah, I will.
Thanks.
Here is one that I did on paper using palette knife. Let me just, maybe if I just turn this light off. All right, so the colors aren't quite as good as I had hoped on this camera. Let me try one other thing and turn off this other light. See. Still pretty blasted out. Anyways, this was a scene I did literally with the mist and the waves hitting the boardwalk that I was on. And I was getting quite wet, and it was early in the morning and cold, but man, was it fun. And this actually over here is like the sun is obliterating the details, so shiny. But this was a palette knife on that paper. I then, because I liked this one a lot, I glued that paper onto a masonite board. So that's how I kept it. So it's not just paper. You just use that bookbinding glue to attach it. And yeah, oh, there you go. You can kind of see all the detail and stuff in there. I don't normally paint with palette knife, and I'm not normally very good with a palette knife, but I sure like that one. That one I actually sold right when I got home. I've told this story before, but I sold that right when I got home. I sold a bunch of paintings and sketches that I did, but instantly I missed that one so much that I called the lady back up and told her that if I can have that painting back, she can have any painting in my studio. Yeah, just more little sketches, just black and white. These are the olive trees. You can see this is how it starts, just really rough. And then you can get really, really refined with that white pen over the top. So I like the alcohol pens, little black and white watercolor sketch of San Francisco. Oh, yeah, and I actually, even silly enough, I sold a bunch of my sketches out of this book. So maybe kind of regret that, but it was nice to try to make some of my money back from traveling for a year. Anyways, those are those ideas.
Will you be able to show us any palette knife instructions sometime?
Yeah, maybe. I'm really not very good at it. I don't do it very often, but I can try. I mean, I do use them, I guess, like that long horizontal picture of Cannon Beach that I showed you guys first, the tonalist one. All the waves and everything were done with the palette knife. So I can show you some of that, hopefully. All right, and then part two. So we started with our black and white, and that's what we'll be doing today on these 4 pictures. You know, we're not going to number them unless you want to. Maybe you could number the first one just for a note for yourself, and then do a couple others. And then what I did with those is I very quickly just glazed in transparent color on top. And I just asked the class, you know, what color should I do this one? Pink. What color should I do this one? Green. And it was a lot of fun just to do that. So that's what we're going to do today with these. And so we'll get to learn about glazing very quickly. And yep, and we're dry. All right. Let me move some stuff out of my way so I'm not kicking my paintings and splattering paint all over my examples. These little sketches that you're going to do today on whatever surface it is you decide, they could be as rough as you want, as refined as you want. I don't care. What we're working on is man, it's a bummer. Then we have to figure out color and lighting again. Anyways, we'll work on that. So everything's always a work in progress. I thought, man, maybe we lucked out, and I finally found the right camera. Yeah, I've bought so many lights and It's my third different camera. We'll get it figured out. So I'm going to go ahead and squeeze out some black paint and some white paint onto that plate. Again, they're just cheap kids level acrylic paints. You can use whatever you want. You could, in theory, do this with gouache, of course, as well. Gouache being kind of an in-between acrylics and watercolors. You can put it on nice and opaquely if you're squeezing it out of the tube. And what I did was I just quickly grabbed different references that I thought would be kind of fun that show the different values. And then I'm going to flip this, and I'm going to do 2 horizontals and 2 verticals. And let's see how it goes. Are we ready?
Ready.
Okay, I think I was talking to myself, but no, I'm just kidding. Let's do this. So my first reference, I don't want to go that way, is going to be this guy, which you can't see. So let's move this over a little more. And I want to show you one more. Here's that tool that I showed you where I was kind of removing the paint. It's just a kind of a rubbery tool. It's called a catalyst, C-A-T-A-L-Y-S-T. And this is the model W01. This is the second one I bought. The first one was the model W05. I just find that this one has sharper edges than this one. This one's all rounded edges. So it's kind of fun. I've got the rounded edge, and then 2 sharp edges here. So if it's something that you see and is kind of fun, that's what those are. All right. And again, I'm just going to quickly splash these in. This is going to be a 3 value because I don't really have the distant hills. So I'm just going to go ahead and have this as kind of my neutral value, right? It's a mid gray. And I just did that because now all the paint will absorb properly. Just using a cheap shop brush right now. You could use whatever brush you want. Figure out kind of the shape of this creek as it's coming in. It kind of comes off the edge here a little bit. So those are kind of, in a very rough way, my dark uprights. I've got the edges of these grasses. There's some bushes in here, kind of bring some of those reflections down, some tall grasses. It's a very messy marsh near my house. That's actually one of the little creeks that feeds into Beaverton Creek there, in Beaverton. All right, so what I have there is basically a 2-tone painting. I could even, in theory, make it a 2-value painting if I want, by simply doing that. I've got my kind of big shapes in. I'm gonna go ahead and mix this black with some of my gray so I get my next value. And this one's all quite dark, right, compared to the sky. And I'm just going to bring little hints of that into the grasses, making them not quite as dark as I just had them. Letting some of that messiness kind of show through a little bit there. All right, so now I've got a 1, the sky and the water, 2, my ground, and 3, my trees. But I'm going to go ahead and lighten up that sky considerably. I'm just going to go ahead and use almost pure white, just a little bit of gray. When you are glazing, be aware that the grays will come back and alter the colors. Testing the zoom. Trying to figure out how to aim this in the right direction. Sorry. And now I'm just going to kind of come across with my whites. Very quick, messy, but it's a great way for me to test a scene. Why is it so? There's with no light in my studio, but you can really see the contrast. Sorry about that, washing that out. I'm hoping maybe once we get it more covered that this will appear a little. Just letting this crazy brush, right? Look how frayed and silly it is. Letting that just kind of make some nice organic marks. It's got the nice little glare of the sun. Maybe I'll play that up a little bit. Maybe I can darken a little bit of the sky. I'm going to go ahead and lighten the ground top just a touch, at least where the light's hitting. I don't want it to get as light as the sky probably. Just the tops of some of these grasses and bushes. I'm just going to hint at kind of, let's see if I move the camera a little closer. I've got it pretty far away. Maybe that will help it to be able to focus. There we go. I'm just going to zoom it out. Focus. There we go. Now we can see it, right? A lot better. Bring a little more of that dark along this edge. All right, very rustic. I'm just going to go ahead and jump to the next guy. This one is kind of a close-up of some trees. It's also going to hint at some fog, and I may change these trees back here to more like a hill or something so that we have some of that 4 values. I'm going to once again just kind of start with the darks. The nice thing about acrylics that I like is that I can layer so quickly. So I can really kind of just test a design and different ideas really fast. So let's say, where's my horizon line? I'm going to bring this up to here. It's not really my horizon line, but kind of the main dark edge I have. Let's change the reference so you guys can see it. Sorry, this one I just printed really little. Can you guys see that okay?
Yes.
So it's kind of the edge of my pond. Going across the other side of the pond. It's going to have some big trees. So one kind of going off the top up here. Comes all the way down onto the edge of the grasses. But can you guys see how this is kind of a fun way to do like little thumbnail sketches that, you know, before I approach my oil painting, I can kind of go, yeah, that works. Or, you know what, maybe this tree is too centered, or maybe that tree's too big compared to that tree. Everything's very quick, very easy, very non-committal. A reflection of that tree up there, don't want to forget that. reflection of this tree, this bush. I've also got, let's bring the reflections down. And I'm just thinking very abstract shapes. I'm just kind of looking at the lights, looking at the darks, trying to think very abstractly. I'm not thinking things. I'm just looking for the shapes, the darks, the lights. And let's get some grasses up here. I should probably put those in a little bit later, maybe on top a little bit. We'll see. I'm going to now go to my grays. I'm going to put some trees back here, or a bank of trees, a little darker than that. But it is a foggy day, a little darker than that. And I'm going to go ahead and make there be a little hill, but I'm going to do it by just leaving that gray that I have there. All right. Really messy, isn't it? It's really just barely a thing. Hold on one second. I need to find my water tray. So I need to clean a brush. I'm all out of clean brushes already. So just like the oil painting brushes, I'm going to squeeze out most of the paint before I dip it into my tub here, give it a little swish. And I'm going to give it another squeeze, and then I can go to a lighter, cleaner color. So I'm going to get my white and come into the sky. I already forgot I was going to add a mountain. So I'm going to have to come back in and do that over the top. So value number 1 coming in, the lightest value, my sky, and let's bring in some of that light reflected down into the water, shall we? You guys able to see that okay?
Yes.
Great. And bring a little bit of the lighter gray across the tops of some of my ground here, which I kind of left.
Michael,
Yeah.
this is Eva. I'm wondering, do you do this kind of small value sketch before with paint, not, the thumbnail, before every large painting that you make?
If I say yes, will you believe me?
Well, just because you asked the
No.
question, no.
I don't do any of the things that I tell you guys would be a really good idea all of the time, because I'm just like everybody else. I just get so excited. And then I also go, man, this is a great idea. I don't need to question this. Why would I question myself? And I jump in, and then I end up painting over a giant 30-inch by 40-inch painting because I only realize in the end. But I did show you that trail in Italy. And by doing those sketches and deciding on some of the issues and capturing some of the things that I really wanted to capture in the drawing, I was able to keep those in the painting, even though the shadows had moved and things, So making as many choices as you can early and without pain, right? I mean, there's no the worst I've done is waste a piece of paper, a little tiny piece of paper. You know, it's only what, 6 inches by 8 inches or something like that. I have a lot of freedom, and I can lighten that. And it's super fun for me. So, you know, there's, again, this kind of takes me back to that where I'm focusing on design. I'm focusing in on values, on my lights and my darks, and seeing, do these paintings, because this is a complicated little reference here. You know, and I've never painted it. I keep it out because I keep going, man, there's something here that's really cool. You know, and I should probably experiment. Like, what if I did this as a horizontal versus a vertical? You know, edited out parts of the dark over here and maybe over here. You know, there's lots of fun things. Maybe I'll even do that as one of the ones down below. Yeah, I'll probably do that as one of the ones down below. But it's a lot of fun. And do you guys see how all this is a little more complicated version of this, right? I mean, it's a lot more complicated. Like, this is just a simple cartoon. And I urge you guys to make one or two just like this. You know, these are basically so simple, but you see how just by getting these 1, 2, 3, 4 values in, how everything just plays together and our brain just goes landscape. You know what I mean? It knows, our brain knows. And it's funny that by coming back in and teaching what our brain instinctually knows, we just kind of don't know we know it. It's fun. Anyways, good question. No, I really don't. I wish I did. I do lots of little thumbnail sketches with like a pencil. You know, you don't need to get the fancy pens. You don't need to bring out your acrylics. You can simply do this with a number 2 pencil on a piece of paper, right? You don't have to, the last thing I want to do is give you guys excuses to not be painting.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know, if you're saying, well, I couldn't do it because I didn't have the pens to do the first sketch, you know, that's not my point. Or I couldn't do it because I, you know, didn't have the paper to put the acrylics on. Not my intent at all. I just like to show that as examples of, so I'm going to go ahead and not do this one because this one's very foggy. It's so beautiful. I can't wait to paint it someday. But I'm not going to do that one because it's kind of not the rules because of all the fog. So what I'm going to do is these two, and if for students that were with me before, you might recognize this. And what I'm going to do is, this photo is really dark down in the foreground. So I'm going to bring in some of the light, and then the hills back here are still very dark. So I'm going to push those hills back. And I'm also going to show, I could add a little bit of the clouds in with the grayscale as well and glaze over it. And then I'm going to go ahead and do what I just said. I'm going to go ahead and do this one as a vertical. So I'm going to edit. I'll even put tape over it so we know what we're doing, because I'm going to quickly lip this guy. And so that's a really good exercise too, is if you're like, well, I like this picture, but would this picture look better as a horizontal? Let's find out. I'm gonna move this a little bit over here so we can see that reference. Pretty abstract right now, aren't they? Grab my blue tape because it's good for everything. I'm going to figure out a nice edit. I'm just going to go there. Here. All right, so now I'm just looking at that scene inside of that. So let's go back here. We've got our pond. I'm going to make the trees a little more important. I'm going to bring this level is kind of right in the middle where I put the horizon before. I'm going to lower that down considerably. So it's more about those trees and the sky. All right, this tree goes all the way up. I'm gonna let it have a little more sky holes than my reference does. This is super, super solid. I'm gonna let some of that light peek through the trees, just a little more transparent. I love this kind of canopy branch that's kind of coming off here. So I might play that up a little bit. And let's even let a little bit of light through down below. The cool thing is I can come back in, if I made this too solid, I can come back in with the grays or the whites of the sky or whatever else and knock in some more shapes if I want. I'm just kind of looking for sexy shapes or sexy lines or interesting shapes, interesting lines. And what I mean when I say sexy is I like a nice curve to things, kind of an implied, you know, and hopefully that term's not taken wrong. It's just a saying that a teacher of mine used to say is, you know, looking for sexy shapes, looking for sexy lines. And I think that that means different things to all of us, you know, what we're attracted to in the landscape or in, you know, in the world that we're trying to observe. And again, I'm just thinking abstract shapes, just lights and darks. And I'm going to keep my bushes out of the foreground. Maybe we'll see. This tree's a lot shorter. Maybe I'll make the branches coming in a little closer. So the scene will be about the trees more. Just using this semi-pulverized shop brush still. You should probably pick up a brush and make prettier marks, but just keeping it fresh, keeping it easy. You can see how I'm just changing the angles of my brush strokes every once in a while to create different things. One thing I like is it's just very, very organic. And I can even start with these big, messy shapes and then come in with a, you know, brush and clean them up if I wanted. But yeah, I don't want to give you guys any excuses for not creating. In college, my best friend in college was a super great painter. And even during college, he had a huge studio space. I don't know what kind of money he came from or how he could do it, but I mean, he had a huge, awesome Portland, you know, dream art studio and in college, and made these big, beautiful paintings. And then due to different circumstances, he was forced to move and downsize. And, you know, and this whole time I'm literally painting in my wife's in my bedroom in the corner on a little easel, you know, doing my best and just envious of him. And then when he was forced to move locations, he just stopped painting. He just like, well, I don't have my studio anymore. I don't have all my amazing supplies and my great big walls and my other things. And I became almost grateful that I hadn't had those things, that I hadn't become reliant on them. And, you know, like I said, I got that little sketchbook. I got those little bag of pens that cost me, you know, 20 bucks, 30 bucks. And I can, wherever I stop moving on the train or even on the airplane, I can paint or draw or at least be creating and thinking and contemplating and looking for interesting things. Make it easy. All right. If art and painting is getting difficult for you, or you're not painting and you don't know why, and it's because, you know, you just don't know where to start or what to do, a question that I like to ask myself is, what if it was easy? What if it was fun? Right? We all used to draw in class on lined paper with a number 2 pencil, and that was fine. And we can do it again. Just keep creating. They don't need to be masterpieces. In fact, they shouldn't be masterpieces. Generally, they should just be observations and collections of ideas and things you appreciate. Those will all lead in towards something at some point. Clean brush again. I'm just going to go ahead and grab an oil painting brush, which I wouldn't normally do, but this is a really on its last legs oil painting brush. It'll probably end up in the kids' bin here soon. But isn't that interesting with just a couple values, how our brain, and I'm talking about your guys' brains, not mine at this point, how they'll just begin to go make things out of this scribbles that I've just put on here with just a couple values, a really cheap shop brush, and hopefully your brain is beginning to say, oh, that's water. Oh, that's a tree. Maybe not a well-painted tree, but so 3 or 4 values is really all you need. And that goes even when you're getting into the more refined part of your painting where you're bringing in the colors. You still want your painting to kind of hold strong with just fairly limited values. And that's one thing I really want you to observe when we're looking at all these masters tonalist paintings is how little are they doing? What are they getting away with? What's our brain doing? You know, filling in a lot of the information. And it's so nice that that whole less is more really is really true when it comes to tonalism. And even if you don't end up a tonalist painter, I'm hoping that you'll take a lot of the lessons that you learn and kind of pick up in this class. So if I wanted to, I could pick up a little tiny liner brush and, you know, go in and put little leaves, you know, sitting out here. And if I wanted to, I could get as detailed or as not detailed. I could, you know, use the same brush and make little tiny sky hole marks in my tree. So as detailed or as lack of detail as you want, that is completely up to you. We are playing, we are experimenting, we are trying interesting new ideas. And that's what I'm looking for from you. Okay, for some of us, quick sketches like the ones I showed you are going to be enough. For others of you, you might want to get in here and get more information. That is completely your prerogative. Okay, number 4, and then we're going to come back. We're going to let these dry for a little bit, and we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to then look at everybody's artwork on our Facebook page while this dries. All right, so this is a nice, super simple one. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to lay in this entire thing as a big dark shape, okay? Just to show you how quick and how simple. Maybe I'll even use a palette knife. How about that to do it? Let's see if I can. I'm going to go with my darks. And it's kind of pretty already. It's got a nice little mark to it. I put my horizon line a lot higher than I was initially intending. So I'm going to go ahead and darken the top or lighten the top part of that and bring that horizon line down. But there's a nice cloud bank kind of along that. So I'm going to turn this top of this dark into those clouds. So should have just said I meant to do it, but
Could you put the reference photo up?
yes, smart. Takes a village, I tell you. Thank you. I just get too excited. You see that okay?
Yep.
All right, keeping my palette knife for just one more mark here. Woo, it's pretty. Maybe I am a palette knife painter. I just didn't know it. Just because I'm not cleaning the knife at all, these darks just keep appearing and disappearing and reappearing that are on the blade. But it's kind of fun. It's making a nice organic shape, isn't it? In our brushwork class that we did at the end of before summer, we did this same exercise, but just did little tiny quick abstracts. That one was all about edge quality. But oh man, was that so fun. Just using different tools. So we had really crisp edge, semi-soft edge, a little bit softer, and then really soft edge. And then we went ahead and did that same thing with colors. And oh man, I had so much fun. That was really cool. So the really hard edge, the semi-soft, the almost lost edge to the fully, no crisp edges at all. And they all just started off abstract, and then things kind of begin to somewhat materialize. A lot of fun. Like this kind of looks like a path through the snow or something with these spindly trees. I don't know, but I really love the colors in that. Anyways, lots of fun. So lots of experimenting you can do with these. So if you want to just play with the palette knife and make some marks and see what happens, a good friend of mine, Amanda Houston, in her classes, she has the students start with painting with these. I could have easily just come across and made some interesting marks with this. And so she just had people do like 5-10 minutes of making an abstract, and then she has them turn them into an imaginary landscape. And it was pretty amazing what some people were doing. You just kind of make some marks and then step away from it from a little bit, come back in, and what did you do? How can that become a landscape? So I got the paint that I just picked up from the sky. I'm going to bring that down and pretend to make some water.
That's so cool.
Thanks for the challenge, whoever asked about palette knife painting. Yeah. Michelle, you're awesome. Thank you. See, Michelle knows how to torture me. But it's fun just to, especially in something like this, it doesn't matter. Right? I never have to show this to anybody again. just you guys get to see it as unless it works out, and then I can share it with the world. I'm gonna go ahead and pick up a brush and pretend there's some detail in here a little bit. I'm going to bring a sun showing through this cloud. It's very soft. It's in the haze. I'm just going to feather it out while the paint's wet. Bring a little more light down into the water. So I'm going to put my sun kind of in the middle of that kind of highlighty area I just put. So now I know the sun's there. And my brightest reflection is probably going to be beneath it. Some nice little hints at marks here. Like there's some grasses maybe above in front of that. Let's see if I can throw a hill back there a little bit. Know what I think to do the hill? Well, maybe I can lighten. Needs a little lighter than that. But yeah, with the acrylics, you can just layer and layer if you're using a soft touch. Just barely skimming this paint across. Ooh, that looks like the sky back there. Well, accident. Doesn't that look like a cloud right here, this darker one?
Yep.
So now I'm gonna make my hill even smaller so I can retain some of that. All right, I'm gonna grab a super crazy brush. This one is fully exploded. I'm gonna dip that into some really dark gray. I'm gonna let this make some, actually I'm just gonna go to black for a second. Make some little marks in there, kind of like the grasses from the foreground are peeking up. Maybe the tops of some of these trees back here, a little more scrubby. It's a very scrubby wetlands area. For anybody that's curious, this photo is from Forest Grove. I just love bird sanctuaries, marshes, to go photograph and to paint at, because they let it go pretty natural. They're always, you know, doing things like putting logs in and stuff, but like a lot of it will get pretty natural. It's very accessible because of, you know, paths and viewing areas. So I'm oftentimes looking for, even when we're traveling, kind of looking for the marshlands, the protected areas, the little kind of parks. And now I'm just going to bring some bush-like textures into the foreground that are a little lighter. I don't want them so light. So some of the grasses and stuff that are kind of in the foreground. I'm just going to drag some of that over the tops of those highlight water areas. I'm going to hint at the tops of some grasses back here. I'm gonna lighten up this dark line that goes right in between the water, just a touch, maybe not with this brush, maybe with this brush. Have so little control. It's got hairs going off every direction. And I'm kind of accepting it for letting it do what it wants to do at this point. I can always kind of fix that up if I need to. I'm a little scared that that sky is really dark right now, but let's do it. Let's let that be an experiment, because we've got the pure white sky here, pure white sky here. Let's see what happens if I leave it quite dark with a little bit of a highlight of that. So they look like a mess, but I'm happy. I'm excited. Hopefully that was fun to watch a little bit. May have to take my palette knife up here. My sky and this one is super thick. See if I can wipe off a little bit of that paint so it dries a little faster. I'm afraid it won't dry before class is even over if I leave it so thick. Yeah, I'm just gonna, oh, no, it's drying pretty fast. My studio is quite warm. Let me clean this brush one more time and, oh, not in the paint thinner. Just dipping it in the water, wiping it with the paper towel, dipping it in the water, wiping it with the paper towel. If you try to let the paint thinner or the water do all the cleaning, you will end up with a big mess. So remember to wipe off with the paper towel before dipping it in to your cleaner of choice, paint thinner or whatever it is. Would you guys like to take, yeah, let's go ahead and take a very quick break so that I can get a drink of, well, get some more coffee and a little drink of water before I sit down and we look at your guys' beautiful paintings from last week. So let's, it is 10 till 11. Man, we're cruising. Still got a whole hour. So yeah, let's meet up at 12 o'clock. We'll take a 10-minute break. Then we'll start with the quick critique. Then we're going to come back in and hopefully these will be dry enough to glaze in. Does anybody have any questions as we're standing up from our chairs? Okay, I'll see you guys in 10. Are you guys seeing the Facebook group page?
Mhm.
Okay, great. All right, go grab some coffee.
Somebody's eating.
I'm having brunch.
Not a bad idea. Did
I kind of-
anybody else have trouble signing in to Zoom today?
Yeah, I think the link in the Facebook page was messed up. Is that what the problem was?
Oh,
I hope
really?
so, because man, I've never had trouble like that before. And I
I-
tried to sign in about quarter till, and it wanted me to sign in to Zoom all over. Then it wanted me to sign up to be somebody that started a Zoom group, and it's like, no, I don't want that.
Oh my God.
So I went back to Facebook finally and found the code, and then I was able to sign in to Zoom again and then put the code in, and oh my goodness, it was
So-
a mess.
Did other people get the email he was talking about? Because all I saw was his posts to the Facebook page about today's class. I didn't get any email about it.
I was gonna say the same thing. I did not get his email handout, whatever he was talking about.
I didn't get it either.
Okay, we'll have to talk to him about that. Maybe he'll send it out again.
Well, it is on Facebook.
Oh, is it just the?
Yeah, it's like
values?
in the pinned section when you first go on the page for the class.
Uh-huh.
It's like one of the first posts you'll see.
Okay, it's just the 4 value system, is that it?
Yeah. I think that was
Okay,
it.
because I see it on the second line too. We're all saying we didn't get that email you supposedly
Okay,
sent.
very interesting. Nobody did, huh?
And I had trouble signing in to Zoom. I had all kinds of trouble because I started about quarter till and I didn't get in until 9:06.
Yeah, I had to go to the original Zoom post in order.
Yeah, the link, because the link that you put in the Facebook page didn't seem right. It was broken.
What
Yeah,
I had,
exactly.
I had the same problem, but what I had to do is to register again. And
That-
then I
Yeah,
got the
I-
email
yeah.
after I registered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I registered again too. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to register again also, which
But
is
it was
amazing.
different from last week was easier for some reason.
Okay, so what happened probably is I went and changed some of the permissions and thought it used the same exact one, but maybe set up a different, are you guys even seeing me? I'm not seeing me at all.
I see
Yeah.
you.
Yes,
I
we
see you.
You. And I got in quite easily by going to the original email link that you sent me.
Yeah,
I
me
could-
too.
I did too.
I didn't
I did-
save that, unfortunately. So,
Okay.
Yeah, so we're lucky to have been here today.
yeah,
Okay.
I used the code number.
You use the phone number, interesting.
No, code number.
Yeah, so in the posts, it just gives a Zoom meeting ID and a passcode. And if you use that, that works.
Yeah. I had to use the 023552 number.
Exactly.
Yeah. But boy, last year it was just, click on it and boom, we were in.
Okay, sure. So yeah, I'm wondering, because I went and changed some of the permissions because I wanted you guys to show up on the video, not just me. So maybe that changed the code a little bit. Not positive. And now I'm not seeing my permissions to do different screens. The share screen, where is that at?
I'm seeing all of the work that we sent in this week.
Mhm. We were busy.
Is it now showing the other screen?
Well, I'm seeing everything everybody did this week.
Okay,
As
good.
little-
That's what I
little s-
want you to see,
Oh,
but
okay.
now it's not showing me the option to,
But you're there as well on mine.
oh, there, okay, there, all my options popped up, all my, okay, so now is it me?
Yes.
Yes, it is. And Gail.
Oh,
Oh, boy. I'm not sure where all my control tools keep going. There we go, share screen. Okay, so hopefully we are seeing the Facebook page.
Yes. Hmm. Seeing your cursor moving around.
Yeah. I don't know where my tools keep going. My okay, hopefully we will be in a good place here. Yeah, Zoom is interesting. Normally I have a whole control panel here to kind of move around and try different things, and that it does not seem to be showing, and I don't know why. All right, we'll just do the best we can here for now, because
Okay.
as long as you guys are seeing the Facebook page, that's what I'm hoping for.
that's it.
What I did was I went over to the media section on the top right, at least for me, and click that. And again, we have the different albums of, you know, the things I've shared and the photos. And so that's a great place to go if you just want to see the pictures that people are sharing really quickly, or if you want to find a picture really quickly and you don't want to just keep scrolling down. That puts all the pictures that we've shared onto the main page are there. And let's just quickly look at some of our work. All right, looks like we get to start with Denise. All right, Denise got a beautiful pond and either some trees or a hillside back there. It looks like almost like in the gorge, kind of looking back along a cliff face. Really, really, really glowy. This looks like a tonalist painting already, Denise. Nice job. Tell us a tiny bit about what you got going on here. Oh, can't hear you, Denise. Sorry. There you go.
Well, I started out looking at an artist I really like, April Gornick, and then I just accidentally saw some value for a mountain.
You know how to spell Gornick at all?
Pardon me?
Know how to spell Gornick?
Gornik.
All right. All right, just put that into the comments there. So if anybody wants to look up her work.
But my painting's not her painting. It's just, I was just looking at hers and being inspired by one of her tree shapes.
Great.
But then I guess I was just following your directions in terms of how you showed us the process last week, and then tried to stop thinking so much and try to just intuitively look for things to erase.
Great.
This was the subtractive method of the underpainting, Denise?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it.
Has such a nice feel to it. Really interesting. Really soft. I love that warm backlit feel that it has to it. It's very, you know, it feels like this painting could be 100 years old or painted last week or yesterday or whenever you did it.
How big is it?
Very nice.
Let's see, that's 22 by 28, I think, or something.
Wow.
11 by 16 or something. I don't know.
And it looks like a very nice flat surface, very smooth.
I was concerned that when you look at the size of this tree mass at the top, that it doesn't match the reflection, because the reflection should not have that little light there, because should be off the canvas.
Right, yeah, and that's easy enough to darken. You can just stain that a little bit with some of your transparent paint and that'll take care of it.
Yeah, I
Nice.
think I'll do that.
Also, I think it's always nice to have a few mysteries in the reflection.
It can be, yeah. Really quickly, the first two things, I mean, I love it. The first two things I notice is the reflection of this tree is so perfect that this little blob here of shrubbery is missing down here.
Oh, yeah, it is.
I saw that really quickly. Sorry about that.
I'm glad you saw that. I was tired.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, yeah, it's so good. The other thing is this tree being so large wants to come forward closer than these trees.
Okay.
Just as an optical illusion. If I were to cover the bottom, maybe where this line is, literally put a piece of paper up and cover that, this tree would feel like it's quite a bit closer than these trees do. But because the ground form on this seems to come a little bit lower, these ones want to come forward and this one wants to come back. I almost want there to be like a hint of ground here where this tree might be growing out of, like a little bit of like some grassy bank, right, kind of poking out into here or something like that. And this tree could come a little bit closer forward. Or if you simply got rid of this nice, clean, straight line and brought it down just a little bit, then this tree would be a
on
little
a different
lower.
plane.
Yeah, it just feels, I mean, it works. There's definitely smaller trees, bigger trees, all those different things. But just very quickly, optically, this tree wants to come forward for me. I could be completely off and everybody could argue that point, and that's fine. And, I'm not right. That's just my quick instinct when I look at it, my quick response. What's your plans for it? Are you gonna kind of leave it, as is mostly, or are you gonna go back in and paint on top of it, or what was your thoughts? And it's fine either way. There's no right answer to that.
I was thinking of putting another wash of Indian yellow in the light.
Mm-hmm. Making it even stronger, making it super glowy.
More of a contrast, a glow. Because I wiped it back so much, I think I almost got to, white.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's really lovely. I'll be curious where you go. This edge of this hillside gets really sharp. You've almost got it outlined in certain areas, which happens when you're kind of wiping back and forth. So that crisp edge could get a little bit softer, possibly, if you wanted. It gets soft towards the top, but right through here, it's pretty crisp. And that's not a big thing, except for, you've got things that are much closer than it with really, really soft edges. So that could affect you a little, the optical illusion of it a little bit. As things recede into space, they often will get softer edge quality than the things that are closer. You can totally play with that, mess with it, and do different things. But this edge kind of right in between the trees where this cliff is definitely wants to be become a focal point because of that edge quality and that line quality, just a little bit. So if you do bring in the Indian yellow, if you add just a touch of actually opaque white paint to it, you can just kind of softly brush it across a little bit, and that will obliterate that edge really nicely.
I'm not quite sure how to manage that part where the tree on the left is not in the right plane.
Okay,
So I'm
this white
thinking
line, you see this white line here?
That white line.
Yeah, just darken that and then bring a new line a little bit lower. Would do it. And then you could hint at just a little bit of highlights under here, wherever you want to put them. What I may do is I would probably get rid of that line, move it up just a touch in the middle, just along here, or maybe even just a little bit higher right here. Lower it here, and then hint at that that little bit of a line of reflection wherever you would want this one to be related to this one, as far as who's closer, who's further. That makes sense? No, that was not very well described.
You're saying to raise that light line
Yep.
and then lower it? I'm not sure what you mean.
Like an angle?
Let's try it real quick. Are you guys seeing Photoshop loading now?
Yep.
Yes.
Cool.
I like the little subtle blue that's in the top of the sky.
Used,
Where is Denise's
well, I did
picture?
use ultramarine and transparent earth red.
Can't find it.
Oh, it was there to begin with before you hit tonalism class.
Oh, okay.
There she
Oh, right
is.
there. Mhm.
Ta-da. All right, everybody sees Denise's beautiful picture on there?
Yes.
Let's grab a little bit of this color. Let's take our airbrush tool, which is quite large. Let's make it a little smaller. And let's get rid of that line. 6% pressure, I need a lot stronger. See how that already kind of does it?
Mhm.
Let's do a clone tool, way too big.
Now it looks like it's overlapping the white streak behind it.
Yes, so it comes forward instantly, right?
Yeah. So maybe I should lighten the value of those bushes behind it.
Michael, do you really feel it's worth having Photoshop? I mean, obviously for you it is, but for those of us who aren't you.
Yeah.
No, there's tons of ways. I mean, you can simply do this with a piece of paper and a pen, try out some things. You can also put a
Okay.
clear piece of plastic over this, or, or a piece of glass
Oh.
over it and try different
Yes.
tricks on top of that.
Okay. Okay.
Or you can take a photo and print it on your printer and then draw on that.
Good thought. Is it very hard to learn?
Yeah.
I know, just for me, the thought of having to learn Photoshop. I
No,
use,
I'm not going to suggest anybody does that.
Okay.
So you're not going to give any lessons, Michael?
There will be no lessons. I'm using the oldest form of Photoshop available to man. So
but this does make the point, what you're doing here.
Yeah, it
that's why
does.
I like it. Yeah, I'm not gonna.
That's really interesting.
I think so too. Changes the whole feeling.
Yeah, that's really, really great to see the planes.
Okay, so squint your eyes at that, and now see how that tree just came forward. Those trees, now there's some movement. It's not just a flat bank back there, and that was just done with a straight line. I wouldn't want that line. Let's go to history.
There's so
Get
much.
it now. I understand what you're trying to tell me now. Thank
Cool.
you.
Okay, good.
Very
There
good.
you go. I will save that and send it to you just as a very rough idea. In fact, this line, I would even maybe make it lower or whatever else you want to do. But yeah, squinting my eyes at it, because those lines are so geometric and perfect. But well, oh, sorry. Oh, I know what I can do. Haha. Because normally I should have done this all on a second layer on top of your old painting, but this is actually right on your painting. Little do you know, I'm just destroying your painting.
It's okay, Michael. I took a photo of it, so I get the idea. I really appreciate that because I do have a tendency to make everything on the same plane, and I forget how to layer it.
Yeah, it can totally work. And, you know, there we go.
Good lesson for all of us.
Oh, I like your smoothing out.
It's not letting me.
Okay, so here's a question. When you
Mhm.
paint a painting and it looks so, and then you photograph it and it looks a lot better, and then you doll it up a bit with Photoshop and it looks really good, is it still art?
That's the question, sorry.
Is it still art? After you've doctored your online, after you've doctored the digital image of your original painting with Photoshop. I mean, it's a philosophical question. You can defer to. You can,
All art to me. Where's my motion blur?
oh,
There we go. Just soften it a little bit.
yeah, boy, that's.
Yeah, I just made it a little windy. Anyways, cool. Let's get out of here. And you guys are now back on the Facebook page.
Yep.
Great. All right, cool. There we go. Thank you for that, Denise. I appreciate it. And you don't have to do anything I say ever. And that goes for all of you guys. Take what you want, disregard the rest. This is your art. But those are just a couple of things I saw real quickly. All right, Susan Hood, are you here today? I don't believe Susan is with us today. Geesh. It's really nice, isn't it? Look at that soft light. It's bordering on not so much tonalism, but I'm not gonna hold that. I don't want tonalism to be our end all be all. We're just using it as a tool for presentation and a way of talking about what we're doing. Susan's she's a quite good painter. And I mean, I think that shows. Look at, she was able to do these branches over that sopping wet paint. You can tell because you can see the brush marks kind of carved into it. That's really hard to do.
Can you zoom in on that? I'm always impressed with good branches. Wow, and then when you look at them up close, they're not so great. That's amazing.
Yeah, no.
I have to step back from painting more.
Yes, you know, for some people, like when I'm teaching live and in person, I literally will be like, stand up, because most of my students sit to paint.
Yep.
Yeah,
I don't do that, but I feel to step back.
Are you guys pretty much 90%? Who stands to paint? Raise your hand. Okay, so sitting to paint is totally fine. It's relaxing and calming, but the problem is you need to be able to step back. In my studio, I feel like I'm going to wear a hole through the floor in the middle of the studio because constantly, especially as the painting progresses, you know, in the beginning, I might step back every 5-10 minutes, but at the end, it's every couple brush strokes when I'm finessing and really trying to see how things fit together. A painting is not meant to be viewed super close. It's meant to be viewed at, you know, 5, 10, 15 feet for the most part. You know, and that you can do it as photographically perfect if you want to, and then maybe you really want people to look up close and look for the hidden birds on the branches and whatnot. But for a lot of us, it's enough to just get the impression of it, right? The idea of it. Oh, there's Susan wrote, sorry, I won't be at class. Very nice. Look at that glow coming through. Beautiful. Love that soft hilltop. Oh man, just gorgeous.
I'm impressed with the very subdued and yet light green in the foreground.
And it really, I mean, nothing in this picture feels out of place. There's nothing that's too bright or too dark or too garish. The colors really feel naturalistic and beautiful. And yeah, my hat's off to Susan on this piece. Really really impressive. And especially because I can tell she did this pretty much
I think
at you
the
all
one-
within two
the
settings.
one thing that is slightly distracting is on the far shoreline. It's a bit dark.
Sure. And are you talking about that red band right there?
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would definitely neutralize that line. Yeah, good catch. See, I hadn't even gotten to that yet, Laura. Nice job. I definitely agree with you I would subdue that line quite a lot. Gosh, nice.
The branches are amazing.
Yeah, good job, Susan. Hopefully you watch this review video. Let's go ahead and like it. All right, nice job, Susan. Stacy, are you on here? Hey, there you are with your gloves on. Look at you.
Yeah, the pain makes me itch, so.
Good. I mean, not good that it makes you itch. Good that you're taking care of yourself. And yeah, I should be wearing gloves more when I paint. I do keep the medical gloves. I've got a box of them down below. I really was thinking about that when I was doing that big subtractive painting. I really should have had a glove on.
Yeah.
I went to the dermatologist for the same reason. My fingers were peeling. And so I wear gloves most of the time, but it is because the dermatologist told me it isn't the paint, it is the nickel in the ferrules of the brushes.
What?
There you go.
Wow,
You may be allergic to nickel.
that could be.
Oh, I only use gold ferruled brushes. Just kidding.
Sure you do.
I can tell when it's a bad gold because my fingers turn green. Just kidding. Yeah, there's lots of things. Some people are, a little more reactive to the thinners and the different things.
Mhm.
If anybody really wants to stay away from the Gamsol, the paint thinners, you can use walnut oil from Graham Paint, and there's a couple of different ways. I would just look up Solvent Free Studio. And I don't have a solvent-free studio, but there's a lot of artists that do. Lots of good YouTube videos and whatnot. In fact, I just got an email from a painter I really like. I haven't read it, but the headline was, all about my solvent-free studio. So I'll read through that and see if there's anything I should share if anybody's chasing it. The only problem with that is if you're using walnut oil or anything else as your paint thinner, is you're going to have a slower drying time and a slipperier surface. Anytime you're adding oil versus paint thinner, you're still thinning the paint. You can still clean your brushes with that walnut oil and everything else. You just have a slippery surface and a little different.
Michael, do you have active ventilation in your studio?
I definitely do. For one, I leave my door open most of the time. I have 2 big windows, and then I do have a very large 2 foot by 2 foot filtration system in here that I keep. I turn it down before class because it's a little bit loud. It doesn't bother me at all. And I change that filter quite often, and it's pretty remarkable. It's just a super air purifier with the HEPA filter. So we also we're using that during COVID in our home. And it's really good when there was big fires last summer, not this summer, but the summer before in Oregon, or at least in our area. I was changing that filter all the time. Another thing is you can put up a HEPA, get a really nice filter, and just tape it to a fan. And that actually helps a lot too.
That helps with the particulates, but I have heard people say that Gamsol, even though you can't smell it, it still does evaporate, albeit slowly, into the air.
100%.
And you're still breathing it. And
yeah,
it's not necessarily any better for you than breathing turpentine. You just can't smell it.
Yeah.
I wonder if those KN95 masks help with that.
I don't know. I doubt it.
Yeah, it's not a particulate. It becomes like
it's a
gas.
gas.
Yeah.
It gases off. Yeah.
I just said I have a little kitchen fan in my studio, or a studio in a little kitchen. So I keep the fan running, and then I hope that that's just sucking off the Gamsol fumes.
Well, it's at least moving it so that it's much, much less strong at any time. So yeah, I have a ceiling fan, and then I also have a standing fan. And the standing fan, I can set it so that the water runs through, or it filters through water as well. So yeah, there's times, especially when it's hot in the studio, that makes me nervous because I know that it's, evaporating faster. You saw my can, it's approximately 5 inches wide that I keep my Gamsol in.
With
I
no
do know
cover?
painters that use a small trough, and I think that that's horrible. Yeah. So if it's an issue, get a smaller container with a smaller mouth. You're gonna, have less evaporating off the top. Or just keep closing it and put your lid, keep your lid
I
on. Go ahead.
I found that if you use a large mason jar with the two-part top, that after you unscrew the ring, you can use the flat top and just throw it back on there when you're not in there. It's really easy to take on and off.
Like it. I like that a lot. Yeah. So if you're having any issues, yeah, just keep it covered as much as possible because like you said, Laura, it's very easy just to grab the lid, swash your brush and put the lid right back on. So yeah, lots of options for that. And again, if it really is an issue or you're nervous about it, there are options. I just don't go into that very much because I don't use it. And I have a pretty big studio space. And yeah, so I oftentimes have 2 fans and a filter going.
I'm curious, Michael, when you get to the glazing part, is there a non-toxic way to glaze?
Yeah, solvent-free gel by Gamblin is a great gel for that.
That's true. That would work great.
Yeah, and when I travel, that's what I take. You can't tank paint thinner on airplanes and stuff. So I just take solvent-free gel, and I can even use that to clean my brushes. It squeezes out a lot. Yeah, I like that a lot. It does not speed up your drying time. It's kind of a neutral dryer where it's just the same as if you weren't using it. So your paints won't dry faster, which may be great for some people. So yeah, I have a lot of that stuff. I use it mostly when I'm traveling.
But you could also use oil like mullein oil or safflower oil for glazing, right?
Yep. Yeah, and then if you do travel with that, just make sure you put a little sign attached to it that says olive or vegetable based.
Just put it in the the Saffola bottle or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, lots of options. All right, let's talk about Stacy's beautiful painting here. Very nice. Almost, it just looks like almost 2 colors. I think you got it is. Okay, very nice. What a great start, in my opinion. I love your little hills back there, the soft trees. I like that this is not even a strong bank. Like the water just goes right up. Like you could just walk right out of this water. It'd be a nice place to go for a swim. It looks like a subtle gradation in the bank there. Are you using an iPhone to take your photo?
No, I am using an Android very quickly.
That's fine. And I don't want to put you down for that or anything. I'm totally fine with the angle and everything. I'm just going to say that on the iPhone, there's when you go to the edit and there's a little square tool like to do the crop, that you can also straighten out paintings. Because sometimes sometimes you have to shoot your painting at an angle to not have as much glare on it.
That's what I was doing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then you can straighten it out. It's pretty.
Android has that too.
Oh, there you go.
I think it does have that. I think
it's
did
actually
see that
Google Photos. If you get the Google Photos app on Android.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Cool.
Perspective crop or whatever it's called.
Very cool. All right. Tell us a little bit about this, would you?
Yeah. So my plan in the end is to glaze the top with a mixture of quinacridone and maybe a little lemon yellow to bring the bright yellow on the top down a little, and then on the bottom I'm going to glaze with. I have this. I think it's called Terra Verte. It's a really nice green, and I thought I'd make a bit of a glaze for that, and maybe layer some glazes and just sort of tamp down all the really brilliant yellows that I see, because I like them, but I want to get it.
Yeah, when there's so much, they're not special.
There's too much. Yeah, I'm not quite done, but.
What colors did you use for your toning?
I used Indian summer yellow, and that was it. No, and a little lemon yellow. A lemon yellow cad is what I use.
But what's the brown?
The brown is earth. Oh no, you know what? The brown is earth with ultramarine blue in it.
I was going to say, when you get down to these real dark, so you did use kind of the three colors I sort of loosely suggested in my wipe away. It's beautiful. I mean, you could almost leave it like this, and it's just this nice, quick thought and gesture, and what a fun way. But I do definitely in the Terravert, you know what? Don't only glaze. Let's get some thicker paint in some areas on here, maybe into some of the trees and stuff. So I'm going to show you guys about glazing, but I'm also going to show you a little bit about mixing glazing with some thicker, more opaque paint.
Cool.
So I'll show you a little bit of that today as well. But yeah, very nice, very beautiful. You know, you've got a couple of the grasses, but you didn't go crazy. You're not trying to, you know, over describe anything. It definitely has a nice tonalist feel. I think you're really off to the races with this one. Nice job,
Thank you.
Stacy.
Thank you very much.
I like this one too. You know what? I give you a love. All right.
Oh, how sweet of you.
Heart.
And this is me again.
No, I already used my love button. Oh no. Okay. Nice job. So Stacy, overachiever, did 2.
Yeah. Well,
very-
the first one, actually, I didn't spend a lot of time on. That was the reductive one you showed us, that one. So I just kind of played with that. This one, the next one I spent more time on. So
Very cool.
So did you do this one here first, Stacy?
I did this one first. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
I
cool.
did
And I
the
like
same
that you
thing.
took your road all the way back and you kind of changed some stuff up, and it's hinted at. It's a nice poetic painting. Are you planning to get back into this one as well?
Well, yeah, I haven't looked at this one as much. I looked at the other one more. So my feeling, so I have a question. So I see a lot of tonalists. It looks like there's sort of some white layering that I see. Am I correct about that though? Are we just using like some really grayed out colors that just appear more white?
No, you're totally right on the first thing. They definitely go through, and that's what I was going to suggest.
Yeah,
If I saw this and I didn't know you and didn't know you were in my class, I would not think this was an oil painting. I would think.
Oh, what would you think?
Watercolor.
Oh, well, I do watercolors.
Yeah, so maybe
That's what I do.
maybe when you're dipping your brush into your paint thinner to then mix with your paints, maybe
Yeah.
not so much. Maybe just try mixing the corner of your brush, just a corner, into the Gamsol or whatever thinner you're using, and then mix it into your paint so that your paint keeps a bit of a density, like in the bottoms of this.
Yeah.
When everything is so wishy-washy, it just feels like a watercolor sketch. There's no density. There's no, I mean, the sky and the ground are almost treated equally. You know, everything's treated quite equally.
Yeah.
It's very soft. So I am going to urge you as you move forward, and I'll try to give you guys each individual, you know, things that you could work on. And this is completely up to you. If you said, Mike, shut up, this is my style, I'm a watercolorist, also paints watercolor oil paintings, I'd be like, cool, Stacy, that's awesome. But if you wanted a little bit of feedback and maybe a little bit of a mission, is let's get some paint on there.
Yeah.
I mean thickness, a little thicker in some areas. And by using a lot less or no paint thinner, then
That's a stretch for me. That's a whole big stretch. Yeah.
Yep. But otherwise you're just going to get where all the brush marks have kind of a similar feel. You know, I can see you're doing a little bit of dry brushing in the grasses, a little bit and stuff in the foreground. But let's see if we can't make our sky and our clouds feel like a sky and our clouds, and our trees feel like trees, and our rocks feel like rocks, and our grasses feel like grasses. Not all the time, you know, sometimes they're all going to blend and soften in their edges and stuff. But this does not feel like firm ground that I could walk on very easy. Maybe it's just because I'm a bigger guy, but you know, this feels like I would squish right into it. So something to work on. If I took a black and white, let's go back to Photoshop real quickly. Oops, I always open it on the wrong screen. Open with, where are you? I'm going to do a quick edit here, just so we're only seeing that. Adjustment, and I'm going to desaturate it, turning it into a black and white. And what I'm thinking is that your sky and your ground are going to become pretty close together.
Yeah.
Oops, wrong button. It's a little
Oh,
dark
yeah.
sky, but not a lot, right? Things are,
Yeah.
you know, you do have your kind of nicer dark band, but you definitely have some room to move around. If I did
Yeah.
this to the demo that I did last week, the first demo, the same thing's going to happen. And I know that. And that's why I want to, if we have time today, I might quickly do a super fast glaze into that. And I'll show you what you just said about adding white. In fact, maybe I will start with that as the demo. I
Yeah.
will show you very quickly. Today's class is going to go long. I can already see that. So you guys are free, you know, at noon to click off and come back and watch. I've just got too much to talk about. I'm too excited. I've overpromised and I don't want to undershow. So we're gonna quickly get back. So anyways, I'm gonna go through these pretty quickly. All right, this is so nice. So there's what I'm talking about. Look at that density, right? The sky feels more sky-like, a little softer. And are you here today? Anyways, this is nice. I mean, there's definitely some design issues with the trail going right up the middle. She talks about that. You know, some things, but I like that density in there. I'm not saying that we all have to do it or anything. I'm not saying one's right, one's wrong, one's better than the other, but this shows you what I'm kind of talking about. It's a little interesting that the trees each get their space because I can't tell if some of these trees are closer or further away than others. But they all have their own individual space. I might let some of them, actually this one touches, but let some of them touch. Otherwise just plonk, 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 plonk. And they feel like they're fighting for space in there a little bit. You know, nice little bit of texture here. There's definitely things that can be worked on. But I think all in all, this is really nice. It reads really well. We could still even light up the sky a little more if we wanted to. I'm going to go through them really quickly. Sorry, guys. Oh boy. Wow, Laura, nice job.
This is my number 2 one, and this is just the subtractive layout underpainting.
Very dramatic. I really like it. And I like your interesting brushwork and different shapes. And I mean, this is just such a great start. Like,
yeah, but I stopped because I knew I was going to screw it up. So I thought I'd let it dry and maybe take a look at it later.
Perfect. No, that's 100% fine. And it's fine if you leave it here, but you could see how long do you think this took you?
This one's pretty short, about an hour and a half, maybe.
Okay. And you're off to the races, right? You've got this really nice, interesting design. You've got different shapes. You've got perspective.
And I got to say, I just love pushing that paint around in the underpainting and, you know, being able to change the composition, you know, because you're talking about, for instance, where's the light coming from? And so I first laid it out and the light was not coming from any place logical where the shadows were. So I had to move the shadows and then that made more sense.
Yeah,
and I just love being able
how
to
the shadows point towards the paint. Sorry, the shadows point towards the source of the light.
Yeah, they do now.
See this one? It's a counter angle, but it's still pointing towards the light. So nicely done. Good example.
So the one thing I noted in one of my comments was that I don't have Payne's gray. And Payne's gray, I assume, doesn't stain as much as the black I was using. So when I blackened it up, I couldn't get back to that glowy orange. It was pretty funny.
Okay, good to know. Good information as you're moving forward. Yeah, it definitely. And you do have a limited time frame, right? It's about 15 to 20 minutes of good movement, and then it starts to stain and stick. And again, depending on the surface,
is Payne's gray as staining then? So I'm using chromatic black, which is a mixture of phthalo and quinacridone, I think.
Yeah, phthalo, yeah, quinacridone green. And
phthalo is just terrible.
No, it's a mixture. I believe that it's a mixture of quinacridone red. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
And phthalo green. Yeah.
Yeah. And both of those are pretty staining.
And they're both transparent. So it makes the chromatic black by Gamblin is a wonderful, wonderful color. If anybody's out buying some more paint, I very much suggest the chromatic black. It's a very transparent black, and it's great for mixing with colors just to darken them or light. You know, what I often will do with the chromatic black is just mix up 3 piles, you know, a very light gray, a mid gray, and a very dark, maybe the black. And you can add those colors to those values to your colors in a very simplistic way. And it's kind of nice. They don't change the colors as much as a lot of the other blacks do. So chromatic black is a fun one to experiment with, and it is very transparent. I don't know the answer, unfortunately, Laura, because I don't paint with the Payne's gray is really pretty new to me. As too is chromatic black. I've owned it for years, but I never use it. I just rarely squeeze out black. It's kind of become a newer thing on my palette. So it's always been the French ultramarine and then the transparent earth red. And those are the ones that I know. And yeah, I would say all the darker colors stain a little more than the lighter colors.
Yeah.
It's got to be done through experimentation. Nicely done. Beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, Chanda, you're on here. I don't know if you're
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
how's it going? Good to hear from you. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
All right, this is really beautiful.
I've painted almost after a couple of months, took a break for the summer. So this was my first painting after a very long time.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Beautiful sky. Love that transition. There. It's really nice. Yeah, you're off. I mean, it's a really good start. Couple quick things is this angle here is the same as this angle. You'd actually, if you want, you can flatten this one out. As streams roll back into space, their angles become less severe. They almost appear to kind of flatten out a little bit. And that will calm this very peaceful image down even a little more. Also, you could let this not be quite as dark. And then conversely, I would darken the side away from the light over here.
Yeah, that is something I actually made that change just this morning. Yeah. So when you say flatten that other line out, are you suggesting make it thinner or just curious?
Let's do a quick. Like that.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
So flatten it a little more.
Okay, got it.
That's great.
Oh, yes.
Make it horizontal. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
I see these Photoshop tricks and I think, why do I even bother with a paintbrush?
So I just copied that, flipped it, and I'm going to bring it back, and we're going to make another little tiny creek way back.
Could you add a granite outcropping, please?
Yeah, for sure. So there, see how the creek now feels like it goes back and back, and I could just keep doing that with lines. But they do. The creeks appear to kind of flatten out a little bit. If you have a really strong angle back here, it just shoots our eye, and it just doesn't quite feel right. It all of a sudden feels like the creek has like it's on a hill.
Right. Okay.
And that just, that's a tough one to teach and to see, but just comes through a little bit of observation. And also for me, I just go, oh, does that feel like it? This is a very big flat field with this very slowly meandering creek, and it felt like that, but now it does
make sense now that you have the the flat lines going all the way back. It makes sense.
I love all your converging lines there. The skies coming in at that top V and the river coming in at the bottom. That's nice.
Absolutely. Yeah, nice. Create a little more transition here.
Yeah, I realized that.
Decide, if the hills can be really dark. They really can when the sun is setting. And you can decide, do you want them to be that warm? You can make them bluer. You could make them a little bit lighter. You could also make the edges a little bit softer if you wanted. There's a lot of things you can do. It doesn't really bother me as it is. And in fact, it feels like that last little bit of light is possibly kind of skimming across the tops of this hill, kind of sneaking in front of it a little bit and warming it up. So, that's just a here or there thing. So Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you.
Yep, you get a love. Nice job. Oh man, Laura, again, you're
This is my
busy.
first, this is my first one. This one took me for frickin' ever.
Oh yeah, when I saw this on the page, I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are killing it already.
Well, I'm in the advanced category because I took your Manuka workshop.
Oh, hey, that's right. 3 days of being abused by me directly in person. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was a little feisty there too. That was fun. That was so fun, actually.
That was really fun. And I hope you are scheduling one for next summer.
Yeah, everybody heard that, right? The Manuka workshop out in the Oregon Gorge. It's such a cool place, and it's such
Are you gonna do it again?
100% if they'll let me. I tried to
Yeah.
clean up really good, so hopefully they still like me. I haven't heard from them, but
Well,
hopefully.
but they've been doing more and more art workshops out there. So clearly they're
Yeah, I think it works.
They're
And that
okay with the
space is
concept.
beautiful. It's like in a big Norse hall. It's so cool. Anyways, hopefully that works out again. This is wonderful. I'm gonna write down an artist's name that I want you to look at, who reminds me already of
cool.
your brushwork. Oh, why didn't it type? Oh, it's not letting me type. So if you want to type in on your comments, it's M-A-R-C.
Oh, I know who you're gonna say. And how does he pronounce his last name? Is always
I don't know. B-O-H-N-E.
I love Mark Bonney or whatever he is.
Yeah, his brushwork is to die for, and he is, in a lot of ways, a tonalist without soft edges. He paints for the most part really crisp, beautiful edges.
Oh God, he's the master of subtlety and understatement.
100%. And he picks these scenes that I would just walk right by and never consider painting, and he just takes your breath away. M-A-R-C, Mark, and B-O-H-N-E. And after you go look at his work, promise that you'll still come back and hang out with me.
Well, okay, so what can I just make this point about Mark Bonney is that I've been reading his posts for several years now. He does not do those beautiful, simple paintings on plein air.
Mm-hmm.
He does them in his studio, and he relies a lot on glazing and scumbling on very dry surfaces. So when I'm painting wet on wet, and I don't kick myself because I can't paint like Mike Bonney because I'm not waiting for it to dry.
Okay, good. Perfect. And I didn't even know he wrote about his thoughts and ideas, because I would love to get into that guy's head. He's an artist that I kick myself for not having forced him to meet me when he lived in Washington.
Yes, exactly.
He moved it to the East Coast or Indiana or somewhere. Anyways, I love his work. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful grays, that guy. These are colors that, they're definitely yellow ochre leaning, but I still consider yellow ochre to be a grayed color. And it's much more earthy, this whole palette is just, it's not punchy, it's not showy, it's just beautiful and subdued, and everything is within a color harmony. Nice job. Really, I really like it. Your brushwork's interesting, your shapes are interesting. I saw your comment about, the rounded, this almost does kind of become one shape. This leads right up along here.
But one thing is when you're trying a technique, well, I find that when I'm trying to, for instance, learn from what you're saying and I'm painting, is I do tend to lose track of other factors, like where's the composition going, where's the physics going. Like the other thing I had was I wanted to put a purple shadow on that foreground tree, but then it just got too busy down there. And then I realized that you can't have a distant source of light like on the horizon if your tree has a shadow facing at 90 degrees from it.
Right. Yeah.
So I couldn't put in it was a total physics fail.
Why am I not seeing the open with open? I wanted to do it in the Photoshop and just show you. Basically, just going to go back to where we were. In this one, I'd almost be tempted to edit like this whole 1/3 over here, 1/4, and just this whole quadrant doesn't do a whole
just
lot.
Chop it off, you mean?
But yeah, I mean, if you could
just crop it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, if it's not helping, it's hurting, kind of a thing.
Oh yeah, no, that's a good idea. Although it does put, I'm holding my hand up right now, and it does put the the division between the path and the hill right in the center of the canvas. But no, that's a great idea. Although I don't know, I painted this on.
Edited it right about where my cursor is. Got rid of everything from the right over there.
I don't see your cursor.
Oh, you don't see it on there?
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe right about there. Then I don't think this would not be in the center.
Right.
Anyway.
Or maybe next time. So I painted this on a canvas sheet, from those canvas pads
Oh.
of sheets.
could
And I
paint
love painting on those because if you have a failed painting, you can always come Christmas time, sew them up into little coasters or pencil cases or
book
covers. They make
Oh,
excellent book covers.
What
What
a
do you-
neat idea.
to save your page in a bookmark.
I once had a painting, it was about 12 by 16, it was horrible. And I cut it up into coasters with lined backs, and I gave them to a friend of mine for her birthday. And she looked at them and she formed them into the original painting and says, I'm going to put this on my wall.
Oh, very cool. That's cute. I'm gonna stop there. I know that we've got 3 more. I saw those previously and commented on the page. So my apologies to anybody. There's not because I didn't want to. It's just that we literally have 9 minutes left in actual class time. So I'm going to get back to painting, and hopefully that's okay with everybody. And anyways, nice job, you guys. And you guys let me know what your thoughts are on this. Do you guys want this much critique time? Is this too much time? We could pick just a couple. We could do it every other class, every third class, whatever. Because I know that sometimes this really, if I critique for too long, it can bring the whole attention span really down low. But if you guys can pay attention to other people's critiques and feed in, give your input, there's so much we can learn from each other, both in what to do and what not to do. So there's a lot to learn this way. Are you guys seeing my palette easel?
Yes.
Only in a little tiny window.
Only in a little tiny window.
I see a big one.
I have it in a big.
Big.
If you go up to speaker view and you're.
Oh, yeah. There we go. Thank you.
Oh, where am I now?
I don't know.
The last painting.
There we go.
Okay, there. I think I'm spotlit again. Is that right?
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, it's very strange that I've
Now we
lost
have to pin you again.
spotlight for everyone. Okay, there we go. Cool. All right, so I'm going to jump back up there. It looks like the video screen flipped. So the painting is on the left side and the reference is on the right. Is that right for you guys? Is that how it looks?
No.
The
No.
painting on the right
The way
side?
it always was.
Okay, good. I don't know why it's opposite for me. Huh, it even says that it's mirrored. Okay. All right, so again, you guys will not hurt my feelings if you have 12 o'clock commitments or you're just 3 hours is as much mic as you can take. This will be videoed and I will keep working. What I'm going to do is quickly glaze into last week's assignment and all 4 of these. So probably be another half hour at least. So, grab your lunch, grab your coffee, grab your cat.
So before we go, those of us who are going, do we have a homework assignment in particular?
I would like to see these, something like this, it could be 1 or 2 of the 3 to 4 values based on the handout. It is on the class and I will find out why the email did not send to everybody. And I will try to get that email out because it had a lot of notes about values and the 4 value structure.
Well, those notes are on the Facebook page.
They are on the Facebook. Yeah, I just copied the whole email and brought it over. So that is strange. Let's quickly just see if I have it in my drafts and just forgot to send it. I was wondering why nobody wrote me back. Usually Huh, nope. All right. Well, I'll figure that out later. But it's going to be easy because I can just copy and paste the Facebook thing. Great. Let's get that in there. Thank you guys for being patient. Yeah, a lot to go over today. Oh, so the homework is just keep working on your paintings from last week. And if you feel like you would like to do something like this, that would be great. It's funny, it's always my fear that I'm not going to have enough to talk about for the whole 3 hours because it's a long class. And instead I go over most of the time.
We're happy.
All right, since it's just glazing, I'm just going to trade this for that. Save some time of transferring my paints. That's my Tupperware that goes in the freezer with all my paints on it.
I really got to try that.
Start with our, and in real life, you guys, this is not nearly enough time for these acrylics to dry. They are not dry. And what we mean more is for them to cure. And in fact, work on the other painting and give them 5 more minutes to dry. Let's bring this guy back up. I'm not going to finish it by any means, but I'm going to show you, you know, remember I took one of your paintings in and we looked at the values and the values were really close. The same thing is happening in mine. My land is not that much darker than my sky. So I'm going to lighten my sky and I'm going to darken my land both by just doing some simple glazing. I'm just going to grab my alkagel. It's my Galca gel. That'll make a nice little transparent area. Ugh, really running, just went to the bottom of the tray. I'm gonna grab a little bit of that. And I'm just gonna very thinly brush it on here just to create kind of a little bit of a slick surface. You don't have to do it this way. You can just go ahead and paint right into it.
Did you call that? I missed that. Was that Galca gel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thinner. I like, you know, when I'm doing glazing, I'll often thin my Galca gel with just a little bit of paint thinner. At the most, it would be a 50-50 split between them.
Wait, so that was the Galca gel or the solvent-free gel?
Galca gel.
Okay.
I could use the solvent-free gel just exactly the same way.
Oh.
Yeah, the salt, I like this just because it dries faster.
Yeah.
It does have a little bit more of a stinkiness to it. I'm going to quickly brush in a red band of transparent color right along here. I'm going to bring in kind of a bluey gray color onto my ground. And then I'm going to take and lighten the sky using the white paint. It's one of you asked about, do people bring white paint over the top? Yes, they do. And nothing, there's, you know, you can go any way with this, truthfully.
Woo.
Which red are you using?
That's my quinacridone, my most transparent one. I just barely clean my brush. I'm gonna take a little bit of my French ultramarine and a little bit of my ultramarine, a little bit of my earth, my earth red, a little bit of Indian yellow. I'm just kind of making a dark color. You can kind of see it's just dark. All right, grab a new brush that doesn't have that color on it. Just for lack of a better color, I'm just going to mix a little Indian yellow into that red. Grab a little more, just a touch of paint thinner. And I'm going to bring that into my sky. I'm gonna grab a little bit of my Payne's gray. I'm gonna bring that up here. I still want it to be sort of dark towards the top. A little more of my quinacridone red. And now I'm gonna grab some white. With a clean brush again. So now I've got it kind of tinted. I can kind of come through if I want and lift a little bit of it. But now I can add my white in there. Or light color. It's not white, but light. And this is called when you're light, when you add white in, it's no longer tinting it. But because I'm going on the top of these transparent colors, I'll be able to scrub that in and lighten an area. It'll begin to pick up the colors that I just put in. Just really quickly, just kind of using this as an example. There we go, much lighter, looks almost white on the screen. It's quite a bit pink.
It looks very white on the screen.
It's pretty pink actually, because of that red that I put in there. I'm gonna let that start graying down. Kind of a purpley gray. But anyways, yeah, that's the kind of nice part about it being dry is I can go through and I can paint light paint right over that dry paint. All I want all day long. It's kind of tinting it more, turning it back towards lighter colors. And this is super fast. After class, I can come back in and refine any of these shapes I want. I can, make the sky doing whatever I want it to be doing. But I wanted to show you that I can basically go back in and lighten things as I want them. Colors, moving them around a little bit. Anyways, the more not making a beautiful painting here, unfortunately, but the moral or the point to this is that that's the cool part about, having these dry paintings is I can go through and change and cover, and it's easier to go towards the light a lot of times in oil painting to lighten areas than it is to darken, but we can still darken things like I did in the foreground. Let's wipe a little bit of that off so it's not quite so dark, but maybe let some of that light through on the hill.
Maybe there is hope for my painting.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do. Just
Yeah.
I could take a dry brush and, just move and soften these edges along the trees a little bit, poke some little holes if I want, give them some more interesting shape. I can go both directions, up towards the sky or down into the tree. Just letting the brush do a little dance. Let's bring that red light down into our field a little bit. That's really strong. Cleaning that brush off, I picked up too much paint. I just keep cleaning the brush off. So I'm actually just picking that paint up that I just dropped off on there. Maybe that should be a little warmer, not so cool pink. So let's add a little yellow to that and let it feel a little more like sunlight. If I like it, I can bring some of it on top of the hills here. So it feels more like it's rolling, right? As we go back towards the shadows again, a little bit, just silly, fast. Oh, there's a spot where the paint was wet still. So my trail, my path there we go. I picked up. This is too soft. But anyways, very, very different painting. I hate this stripe I just made. That was done. Let's get rid of that. Cleaning my brush off, and I'm just gonna...
Is this now what you'd call a luminist painting?
Kind of. A luminist, I'm learning a little more about some of the differences in definition of the luminists and the tonalists. And, a lot of the tonalist paintings have these very glowy skies. So a lot of times when a lot of people are talking about luminous, they mean that the brushwork is almost disappears and that it becomes where the hand of the artist kind of disappears in the painting and it becomes very, kind of soft and realistic, whereas tonalists will oftentimes have more of almost kind of that impressionistic brushwork in their paintings. So it's weird because I've always thought that too, that, the really glowy, especially when it becomes more about the sky, is more of a luminous. But in actually researching for this class, I'm seeing so many different definitions again of luminism and as tonalism. And because I don't want you guys to care too much about, like when we looked at, one of the paintings in there that was, bright and colorful. If that's your thing, do it. I just want us to use kind of the how do we simplify, how do we work on designing our landscape to make what we want. Let's make pretty or whatever, moody or whatever it is, landscapes, and using these tools of simplification. And then we get in there and we make them interesting and colorful. There's without light. You can see there's a lot of pink in that sky. Let's see if we zoom in, if it can pick up the color.
Very pretty.
Yeah, so very quick, right? I mean, it was just a very quick transition. I can come back in and do whatever I want with that as we keep moving along. But anyways, there you go. It doesn't have to be one way, and it doesn't have to only be glazing, right? We can change things by just painting right into them.
Wow.
So love it or hate it, the idea was to show you that, you can mix glazing and opacity, and you can mix thick paint, thin paint, glazing, and all the other things all together. All right. So I told you I'd be about a half hour long, and I think that's going to be about right because we still got 20 minutes and 4 paintings to do. So let's see if we can do them each in about 5 minutes of glazing. What do you think? All right, so we're starting off on this guy up here in the corner.
So for our homework, we're not only to do the black and whites, we're to do the glazing.
If
also
you like to. I don't want to give you too much, but yeah, I would love for you to experiment. This is a great time to test your transparent versus semi-transparent. And you know what? Why don't you do the black and white? And they don't even have to be like this. Again, super simple, however complicated you want them to be. If you want to do some glazing, otherwise what we can do is for next week, maybe we will do a more refined black and white acrylic painting for those of you who have acrylics, and then let it dry for a day or two, because this is still really quite wet. I'm going to create a very not, these paintings aren't going to withstand the test of time. But let's, so black and white for sure. It could be just 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, and then working on last week's paintings. That's your homework. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I will try to remember to write that.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with last week's paintings. Because
Okay.
you told me to stop, and I was one of the first, so.
Okay, well, then do another.
Okay.
Oh yeah, yours was so good. Yeah, boy, I would be.
Is that Kathleen?
Yeah, that was so good.
Yes.
It's lovely.
Well, I just put another photo on that wasn't so glary.
So right now I'm just rubbing on my earth red on this one. And add a little paint thinner to it just because I want to speed up this process. All right, got that. Clean paper towel. It's funny, I have a garbage can directly to my left and 5 paper towels between me and that garbage can. Ta-da! Isn't that cool?
Wow. Wow.
All right, so there I just barely wiped it down. I'm going to go ahead and wipe it down a little more in the lights.
And is that oil over acrylic?
That is oil over acrylic, way too fast. Again, if you are going to glaze into your acrylic paintings, please at least let them dry overnight.
Right.
3 days is what they suggest. But again, because these are just little sketches, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not selling any of these unless you guys beg me to let you buy them.
So Michael, have you ever tried glazing into acrylic with very transparent acrylics?
You know what? I have some. I haven't used it yet. Let's do it. I just bought some.
Excellent. What colors did you get?
I bought transparent yellow oxide and transparent red oxide.
Excellent.
Let's do that. So very quickly though, I've wiped it away. I can even take a little bit of paint thinner onto my paper towel, and I'm going to bring back feeling of hopefully sun right there in the sky, and it's reflecting right here in the water.
Yeah.
Right? I can take the same paint that I just scrubbed on there and just make it a little bit thicker. Right? Let's turn it towards green, just a touch in the grass, which is my transparent Indian yellow. I'll probably need to go a tiny bit opaque on that green. Yeah, that's gonna be beautiful.
It's really hard to see on the.
Yeah, and I'm not really putting any on yet. I'm just testing it.
What green is that?
It's this pile of leftover green from this weekend. Let's call it leftover Cannon Beach green.
Oh, okay. So it's not from the tube, it's mixed.
Yeah, and it's quite opaque. It's me literally cleaning my piles at the end, and it just ended up with this really beautiful grayish green. You can see that, right?
I hope you
Yes.
sold a lot.
I did not sell a lot. I sold a couple. It was On the first day, Highway 26 was shut down
Oh,
Oh,
no.
due to a car accident. So that made for a kind of funny, lonely day. It was nice because all of us artists were out there, but I ended up buying artwork. So that was kind of effective. Bought a really beautiful blown glass piece for my wife to drink her wine from, except for she says it's too pretty to drink wine from. So evidently it's going to be a candle holder or something.
Was it,
Put a little bit of gray blue on there.
was it, I saw those and I was gonna pick one up and, but it's that kind of a teal blue, or what color was it?
She has all sorts. I actually bought the one I watched her make just because that's always fun. It's very marbled, the one she was kind of doing like I do, where somebody would ask a question, well, let's try that and see what happens. And it is a lot of colors, but it definitely leans towards the teals and the greens with little speckling and marbling of some other colors. It's pretty hard to describe. Plus, I don't remember right now. There you go. Isn't that fun?
Beautiful.
All right, let's go to the next one. We're going to do this one with, so I got transparent red iron oxide, which is basically the equivalent to what I put there. So, and I've got transparent yellow iron oxide. Let's try transparent yellow oxide on this one. Because it's acrylic though, and it's going to be wet, I will not be able to do oils over the top. So this is going to be, well, I could do the iron oxide and the transparent yellow and see what happens. So I'm just squeezing out a little dab of it, each one of those, and grab my brushes. So I'm just grabbing the same brushes I used earlier to build these silly paintings. And
So these are glazed with acrylics?
this one is going to be glazed with acrylic, just as a test. Yeah, see, and I bought these just because of the last class. We talked about it a couple of times and everybody had really good questions about that. And I didn't know the answer and I still don't, but I will soon.
Well, I've tried it a few times since I took your workshop last June, and
Okay.
I like it a lot because you can immediately go back over with black and white acrylic if you want to change something and then reglaze it. It's just amazing.
All right, so that's great. Good to know. Yeah, because I figured that would be a big time saver because I can tone the whole canvas very quickly because I love doing these black and white acrylic painting. So that is the transparent yellow iron oxide. Very beautiful, very.
So you're just using water as a medium?
On this one, it's only the water and not even that much. It really is transparent. My brush is a little wet because it's the brush I was using previously. I'm going to go ahead and put it on thick. Let's just see what happens. This is directly out of the tube, thick. Okay, so
What's the worst that can happen?
when it's thick, does have coverage. And then I could just scrub it out. So this is a good use of these shop brushes. I can be pretty brutal on them.
And the black becomes green.
It does a little bit, doesn't it? Yeah, I probably will wipe some of that away because or I could just keep brushing it until it gets thinner. But yeah, I mean, it's already just kind of a nice atmosphere. I'm going to go ahead and introduce the red iron oxide onto the edges and foreground. Pretty fun. Let's go ahead and wipe back some of that. Let's get our highlights back. I got to act pretty fast, I bet, because
Yeah, I think so.
got to make sure not to dip into my paint thinner, which I just about did. Don't know what that would do.
But if it gets too dry, you could just like smush a little white acrylic over it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then reglaze it.
Let's bring back some of those darks by just simply wiping some of that back.
Excuse me, Mike, is that equivalent to the transparent earth red with oil?
I imagine it is, yes.
And the a yellow iron oxide, I think would be like Indian yellow or ochre.
You know what? They actually sell a transparent earth yellow.
Okay,
I
thank
actually
you.
have a tube of that in my, but I have found that I just mix my Indian yellow and my iron oxide and they get a pretty close and a little warmer color than the transparent yellow, earth yellow out of the tube.
Wow, look at that.
That's kind of fun. All right, let me make sure I wipe up those acrylics so I don't accidentally dip into them. Get rid of this water so I don't accidentally dip into it.
So
Cool.
after that dries, you could go over it in oil, couldn't you?
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
Okay.
totally. Yeah. So that's a good fun, cool little experiment. I was hoping to kind of refine some of this with opaque paint. So I will probably have to do that with oils. All right, let's flip it. Two horizontals, one very dark one, and this one kind of turned horizontally. What color do we want for this brighter one here? What color would you guys like to see?
Blue green.
Blue,
Yeah,
green?
blues.
Yeah, yep.
Let's have some
Bring in
blues.
Yeah, some blues like
Nocturne. So I'm going to bring in my French ultramarine to start, which will be very dark. Just looking for a clean brush. They're getting hard to find at this point of the class. Also a clean spot on the palette, getting hard to find on the.
Oh, yum.
Wow.
That's blue.
Blue. Indeed.
It's a moonlight scene.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, nocturne. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a quick little wipe down.
God, that looks great.
It's gorgeous.
Cool?
I've never seen French ultramarine look so lovely.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful.
Hardly need to do anything more to it.
Exactly.
It looks like it's staining. Is it staining?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, remember these acrylics are still wet a little bit too.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's definitely soaking in there. Plus I have a lot of brush texture in this light area where I kind of came back in with the white to make it. I'm sure a tiny bit of my quinacridone red.
So when you demoed this in June, you used, oh, I don't know, Galkit or something to prime the acrylic after you painted the acrylic?
Yeah.
Before you glazed? Are you
Yep.
still doing that in general? I mean, that takes
That's what I
overnight.
just did here too.
But I thought that last time you let it dry overnight.
Oh yeah, to create a little protective shield. Yeah.
And is
probably-
it worth doing, or does it not make much difference?
No, it definitely makes a difference. You get a little bit of a protective layer so that it's not soaking up as fast. It's like kind of, that's equivalent to almost putting like a little sheet of glass on there.
Uh-huh.
That kind of, creates that level of separation. Ooh. Little lightening up. Oh crap! Sorry, I added yellow there on accident. It was on my dirty towel. Don't be cheap like me. Pick up a clean towel. All right, let's bring in a touch of Indian yellow. Let's clean this brush. Just a touch of it. Barely on there. I'm gonna actually clean it, grab a clean towel. Add that one to the pile on the floor. And
Oh, good. Wow.
Fun. I'm gonna bring back one more touch of my quinacridone red. Put it right on the top of this hillside. Grabbing up my paper towel, I just ripped off a little piece and I'm twisting it. So now I've got this very sharp little piece of paper towel. There we go.
Beautiful.
Mhm.
Just need a fish jumping. All right, last one down here.
You're doing great on time.
Oh yeah, got the whole 3 minutes to finish this one. What are we gonna do with all our extra time when we're done? What do we want to do here? You know what? I'm just gonna do Indian yellow and see what happens. Just because it's so dark already. Do worry a little bit. I'm just gonna wipe a little bit of paint thinner across there because I want to keep it very thin.
Do you have a favorite acrylic for the underpainting?
A favorite what?
Acrylic brand for the underpainting?
No, you know what? I went and bought all of them recently. So I have a whole box full, but I just figured I'd use the student quality one for this demo.
You find the cheap ones work as well as the fancy ones for underpainting?
So far, it's all pretty new to me. All right, I'm going to bring some of the earth red into my foreground. Kind of a little darkened down with some of the French ultramarine.
And did you say you've gone out in the field with acrylic paint?
I have. I even did like a 36-inch by 48-inch, but it was
Jesus.
so well. Yeah, it wasn't a smart choice. I'm not gonna lie. I couldn't get back to areas. They were drawing so quickly.
Yeah.
That I just
You
couldn't
had.
control it. I ended up painting over it. But it was a fun experiment. And it became very loose. I mean, I didn't have a choice. Bring a little bit of that brown into the sky so it harmonizes a little bit. Just wiping it off here and I'll add it up there. Plus the sky looks very green because of that yellow. So
Tornado weather.
yeah, exactly. Gonna wipe that brown over the whole thing and see what happens. Clear off my sun. Clear off the highlights. Yeah, this one will need a little more finesse, and this might be a good opportunity for me to bring back, maybe that's what I'll do real fast, is a little more of the white paint. So I'm going to go back into the sky here, and let's add some white oil paint, or lighter colors of paint in there. You guys are awesome. Thank you for hanging out. Those of you that could and are still here, I do appreciate that. I know this is a very long class.
Well, this Zoom thing, what you don't realize is that some of us have already, done the dishes and put in a load of laundry and done a little vacuuming.
I know what house you can visit and then. Yeah, it stains really quite quickly, but I'm not minding it. very loose and gestural. And grab my Q-tips, a couple of them. And let's just go ahead and go back towards white. Just add a little paint thinner with a Q-tip, bring back my sun. Got a little light underneath. A little light hitting that water. Yeah, it's interesting. This is also squiggly. It's grabbing too much attention. So let's go ahead and do like we did on that first painting.
Boy.
A little more in there. Add a little bit of Payne's gray. And I can also wipe off some of that white. Huh. Starting to look like the reference.
Oh,
Fun, 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 fun. All right. So even if I told you guys that the assignment is to only do black and whites, I don't want you to go in and glaze, and I don't want you to color. Wouldn't you want to after watching how fun this is?
yes.
Yes.
Good. So do as much or as little as you have time for, as you're comfortable with, but have fun. Play, play, play. Try new things.
And eventually, what will you, after these dry, where do you keep them? What will you do with these?
I mean, because I'm painting oils on top of wet acrylics, I really don't even know what will happen to them, if they'll just fall off or what. I don't know. I'll probably just cut them into their little squares, and maybe I'll work in detail. You know, I've got my little brushes. I really like this first one. I like the little blue one, kind of. Yeah, I don't know. They're fun. Maybe I'd work into them a little more. Maybe I can get really crazy and experiment more with them. I could, you know,
Well, it's very inspiring.
If you kept them, would you frame them because they're paper backing like you would a watercolor? I mean, except without glass?
I
How
don't
would
know.
you-
Oh, this one's pulling up the picture. Huh. The blue one is tearing off. The actual picture's tearing off.
Wow. So that's interesting. So the acrylic is tearing off of the oil paper?
Yeah.
Wow, that's good to know. I mean, it's
Just that corner.
not a good thing, but
Yeah, just this
so
corner.
I wonder if that's because the paper was primed with an oil medium or something?
I don't know. I've done this a bunch of times and I've never had that happen. I'm guessing it's still just wet enough. So zoom back out and move this crazy snake thing away. Stop bouncing. And yeah, I'm just way prematurely pulling off the tape, way too fast, but you know, it's too fun.
It could
Plus,
just
good
be
ones.
because it's on an incompatible surface.
It sure could be. Except for, like I said, I've done it quite a number of times and I've never had that happen. So I have to imagine it has something to do with just how wet and everything else.
Right.
All right.
Wow. Those look great.
Yeah.
Those are fun. Thank you.
Mhm.
Super fun.
Wow.
Depicting tonalist.
Yeah, I really like the colors in this one.
Mhm.
Earth red. Again, so I'm gonna move the snake a little closer again.
Okay, and you're gonna photograph those. I mean, you're gonna take still pictures of those for the
Yeah.
Facebook page. I hate to add more work to your to already huge amount of work you're doing for this
Well,
class.
somebody here said they're gonna come and do my dishes, I thought I heard, so. But yeah, look at those colors. It's so cool. Like with the earth red, it's hard to see, I know. Yeah, and it's funny that this one ended up so similar.
Yeah. Wow.
Ta-da. All right, you guys. I cannot wait to see what kind of messes and experiments and craziness you come up with. Well, switch back. I guess we're going to end here. It's not letting me switch over to the other camera because I don't know how to use Zoom.
Well, thank you very much. I feel very inspired.
Yes, always.
Great.
Same here. Enjoyed it.
One of my favorite things, if you can do, is like a top 3 things you learned on the Facebook page, or top 3 things you're excited to try. I always like seeing that. That helps me as a teacher to know, what stood out, what things. And if you have any comments about Mike, you're just whatever, please share all your feedback, good, bad, ugly, whatever it is. And I appreciate you guys spending 2/3 of your day with me. So go take a nap. I know I'm tired.
Sounds good. Thank
Bye,
you, Michael.
everybody. I'll see you
Thank
next
you.
week.
Thank you.
Bye.